We don't have anything to talk about. Everything has been um, no news,
Absolutely.
and everything's it's been really really uh, nothing to talk about. You know.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, this has been it's been 2 weeks, but
Yeah.
like uh, as everyone has said, and I'm sure everyone who's watching here feels that it feels like it's been already 4 years of the Trump administration, right? It feels like we should be going into like a new administration now. Because if
Mm.
you're the type who actually follows like politics, this is just oh my god. I mean, it's the best of time to be like in like within the news, and it's the worst of time to be like a citizen of this goddamn country. Because
So true.
it's awful. It's nonstop. There's always something else, right? Um, and something I wanted to talk with you all about is that the address, the presidential address.
Oh, yeah. Where
What
everything's
happened?
great.
Yeah, like what happened? So if you guys didn't see it, right? Well, first of all, you live a blessed life. But if you did see it, yeah, Donald Trump had an address, I believe, on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday night, um, to the nation, right? And this is a big thing. It doesn't These don't happen often, and I mean like the type where they cut into the local news, or the prime time shows or whatever, right? And they're replacing it. Okay, we have a special announcement from the president, right? There's
Mm.
the emergency ones, right? Of those will happen just at any point in time. They can cut in. But this wasn't an emergency one. This is planned, and people were like, "All right, well, what's it going to say?" The big thing, and what didn't happen, I'm grateful that didn't happen, is that President Donald Trump did not declare war on Venezuela. That's what we were all expecting. That's what everyone was expecting. He's going
Yeah.
to do that, all right? That doesn't mean that we are now at peace. That's a different thing, right? No, we're still actually doing the bombings, right?
Yeah.
we just haven't declared war. So, but still, all right. But what we got was like for a stranger. He just like rambled for like 20 minutes. Um Doing his like usual shtick, right? Like it was all his greatest hits he was going
Yeah.
through, right? About like how great he's doing, but how bad Biden was doing. He inherited it all from a Biden, this economy from Biden, right? And it's still not his economy now. Don't worry, unless something good is happening, then it was all his idea. He talked about uh, uh, how uh, the tariffs are working, right? That part of the economy is good, and then also he's going to give a dividend, like was it one thousand seven
A
hundred seventy
warrior
six
dividend. A warrior
a war
dividend.
It was
dividend
wild, dude.
to the soldiers, which I mean I'm not against, right? To our military, I mean go ahead, right? But specifically 1776 to celebrate the birth of the country. Okay, whatever. And but he's just like rambling hard, and it's like it's and I'm curious what you all have to think about say about this, but it feels like he like he's been like absorbing the news about him, right? Like the he's been seeing the polls, and I know he like keeps track of these fucking things, right? He's seeing the polls, and him like just nose diving in that, right? And it was like slowly eating his way out of, at him, and it burst open. He had a teleprompter, but like it seems like he was barely following what was happening there, right? And he was just like, I'm doing a good job. I know what you're talking about. Prices are down. Now, I know you can see prices are different, right? Yeah, I'll tell you gasoline is at an all-time record low, but I mean, you'll go to the pump tomorrow and you'll find out otherwise. I know you're that you're seeing crazy prices within the food market, but like you can get a cheap turkey somewhere. So all good. This was the speech. This was the speech. What was this? Thoughts?
I
Yeah.
saw it more or less as like a mini
Welcome to Flavor Country.
toned down rally obviously, which is, yeah, all the same talking points, but obviously a little bit more updated in terms of like the cost of living, or rather, there's no issues with cost of living, and like, yeah, just completely unhinged, or just like, well, more or less like, in my opinion, like gaslighting the American public, essentially. Like, nothing to see here, folks. Everything is great, so don't question me.
Yeah, I think I hate how it's another example of how unserious they are. Right? They just don't take this stuff seriously. They don't take the presidential address seriously. That used to be, like Prime was saying, it's like something that was a big deal. That you have like a prime time presidential address, like, oh dang, something big is about to happen, and then it's just nothing. It's just he used it to grandstand, and obviously the files or came part of the files or whatever words they wanted to unredact, and release today came out, which was wild. And I think that they were trying to just they were just trying to they're just trying to create a PR wave, and before that.
Yeah, the Epstein files came out and it was stupidly redacted.
But I thought
Like,
there
not
were no Epstein files. This was a
there,
Democrat hoax,
That's a
right?
also
good
there were
point.
none.
And
Yeah.
and you're stupid if you believe that there's any sort of Epstein files. Like,
Yeah.
but
Uh,
this all seems to work with his whatever, his base. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
Very,
they love
very.
it.
yeah. So the polls are were falling, but like as always, he has this stubborn floor, right? He has this 30% that no matter what, no matter what, will say he's doing a good job. Right? Like his polls numbers never go past that. Um, maybe on some individual issues, but like overall, like his approval rating just never like falls below that floor. So like, is he actually going to be punished? Like people were saying that like, well, okay, well, because of these, one, because of the tariffs, and two, because of the Medicare, not Medicare spikes, ACA spikes, right? Yeah. How your premiums are going to go up if you're on the ACA, right? On those medical insurance programs, right? That would be punishing for him, right? Specifically Donald Trump. Um, like, and there's a lot of people, and the ACA is Obamacare, right? There's a lot of people on Obamacare in red states. And they are going to feel the worst. But like, if that's the case, like then I don't think he's going to feel it at all. Then because those people, right, people who are going to be most affected, most hurt by this, who voted for him, will defend him to the end. Are still saying like right now, like this is the best president I've ever seen. Like I've seen, I'm not sure if you guys have been watching these interviews, right? Like even in this moment, like this is the best presidency I've ever seen. Like he's actually doing a great job. But there are a few things I like I like for him to address, right? Like the economy is just like not really great right now, and food prices are really high and inflation. But still, this is the best president that I've ever experienced. So I don't know, man. The cult is real, and so like, yeah, I'll just leave it there because I have more to say. But like, I'll just be rambling.
No, I think this is the place to ramble. Like, yeah, it is mildly frustrating. And even like, I'm a Canadian, and I find it frustrating as well. Just in terms of like, yeah, how locked in and like no matter what. And obviously, I see some of these interviews, but I also know some of them. When some of these people go out and interview the general public or try to interview some of his base, how much of it is like staged, or are they selectively picking people that they know they're going to give sort of the more unhinged takes. But like, yeah, but assuming some of them are representative of the base, it's like pretty much like no matter what, pretty much as you say, it's like, yeah, the economy is not so great, and a whole bunch of other issues, like the Epstein files or the lack thereof. But the deportations and ICE, that's pretty much, it seems like for some people that's all they care about, just the deportations and all that stuff, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's like a weird focus on anything but what they ran on. Like, I mean, there are people that are being like swayed. I feel like a lot of the Gen Z male voters are kind of having to come to grips with like this isn't going to be exactly what they wanted. That the stuff isn't happening. I do think that like the rise of Fuentes and stuff kind of shows that they're probably not happy because things aren't going more extreme, right? They kind of are seeing um, stuff stalled a lot more than they want to, and like they want to try to it's basically accelerationism, right? They're trying to um, burn it down even more because even Trump can't get it done fast enough for them. So it's very, very, very telling. I feel like that Fuentes is being like it kind of accepted into Republican mainstream now, and like his ideas are kind of not be they're not denouncing it at all, right? Of course they don't want to, and they want to kind of like use his popular and honestly polarized and energized base. I mean, Grapers are extremely well organized and energized to get involved. They get involved at incredible levels, and it's very unfortunate because they have a huge disproportionate impact. And it's uh, it's it's dangerous. But I mean, but they are the worst of the worst.
There does seem to be at least, well, so let's say based off of what I casually come across on Twitter and some other headlines, there does seem to be a little bit or an uptick in infighting on the right of like well, given the rise of Fuentes, obviously people like understandably Ben Shapiro not really happy about that, and there's whole issues like Candace Owens, Megan Kelly, and there seems to be a lot of like yeah, at least from what I observe, a lot of infighting, and I'm curious to see how that plays out, or what base wins out, the slightly more reasonable Ben Shapiro, or like the unhinged Candace Owen followers and Megyn Kelly. I think that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think that is actually interesting. The conservative civil war, we'll say. I don't know. Um, but there are deep divisions showing right now, right? And it's interesting that so much of those divisions, as we also seen on the left, has been about Israel, right? Like that has like fractured the American spectrum, like political spectrum, in a way that I've never seen before. I wish we had someone older here to talk to who might have a bit more like historical perspective on this. Like I've never seen, because like you'll see like moments like these where something pops up and it like uh it causes a party to have to readjust and have a conversation within itself as to its path forward. Usually not like both parties like this, but like all up and down the political spectrum, it's fractured in many different ways, not just like one way, and like a lot, like it's like fractured glass, and it's like spread across the entire political spectrum, and the and it's unclear to me, especially on the right, less so on the left, but unclear to me as to who's going to take power, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
who like leads the path forward. Like the lines aren't clear, especially on the right, I think, because like young Republicans are turning against Israel. Like they're decidedly turning against Israel, not for the same, maybe exact same reasons that I am specifically, right? But young Republicans have been questioning the orthodoxy, right? And like the elders of the party have been trying to get them in line, but it's not working. Now like Israel isn't the only thing obviously at play here, but like it seems to be like defining the fault lines. And the big players, right? They all have their distinct positions on this, right? And of course, other things to argue about, but this seems to be like the thing that they fight about. Ben Shapiro was at CPAC was throwing insult at Tucker Carlson um, over this, right? And then Tucker Carlson came in later on, was defending himself over this. And then you have, like you guys brought up, what's his face? Uh,
Fuentes.
Fuentes, right? Yeah, Fuentes, indeed, yeah. He has his own position, right? And the reason why Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson were fighting is because Tucker Carlson talked to Fuentes, right? And then there's Candace Owen doing her own thing, but all of them are talking about Israel. So this is fascinating to watch.
Yeah,
Fascinating.
it is. Um, and I know, well, at least again, based off of what I observe on Twitter, so there's one Twitter user that I follow, and they're fairly popular on Twitter. I think they have, 20, 30,000 followers on Twitter. I don't know if you know, like, Dr. Avi, but, well, they voted for Trump, and, like, I don't know for sure, but, like, I would say, generally speaking, overall, they're fairly left-leaning, so to speak. They're vegan, and they have other sort of, like, progressive views, but they seem to be sort of a single-issue voter, from what I can tell, in terms of, like, they pretty much only voted for Trump because of their position on Israel, or they view them as more favorable towards Israel. But then now he's understandably, very upset of the rise of Fuentes and the embracing of Fuentes on the right, where it's like, well, he might be having a little bit of a voter's regret, or he didn't quite see this coming. Although maybe to some people it might have been obvious, or I would say it should not be surprising that there's a rise of Fuentes on the right. But I'm also interested to see how that plays out for that particular Twitter user.
Yeah, I mean, he was always there, right? Fuentes was always there. They had the Graper Wars of 2017 and that kind of stuff, and they were always there, but it was stymied. I think that Prime's right. It's kind of like particularly after October 7th and all that kind of stuff, and yeah, it is weird. You have basically the Candace Owens, and that we watched both of these, like, Candace Owens kind of like Civil War videos this week, and it was really weird to, Candace Owens, Tim Pool, Erica, what's her name? Yeah, Erica Kirk, all just kind of like fighting amongst themselves, trying to establish, and I think that it's kind of like the death rattle of this ideology, where they kind of see that Trump's old. Trump is old. He's even if he is installed as a king, he is going to be old. There's going to be something going forward that is going to include them or not. And if they feel like they're on the outside, and they know that it's very wishy-washy, I feel like you can get kind of like pushed out. And look at MTG. MTG like was pro-Trump the entire time, like, and as soon as you have that ire, it's like the eye of Sauron. It just like that laser beam towards you. Like, once it's on you, there is really, what are you gonna do? And she sat there and stoked the left for how many years? 6 years, but it only took a month of anti-Trump stuff that made her resign and want to. Yeah, it's just wild.
Well, yeah, it's a weird place to be in. That, like, someone like MTG feels more sane now in this context, or like they've pretty much gone through sort of a PR, like, whatever, reimagining, so to speak, of like up until like 1 or 2 months ago, I viewed more. Well, I still largely view MTG as largely unhinged and not an overly serious person, but like, as of now, like, there's more people embracing her, and she's clearly trying to separate herself from the MAGA movement, and she's sort of like, whether it's an actual genuine attempt to reform herself, or she just appears more sane in the context of all the other insanity, I don't actually know, but like, I think that is a sign of something, of like where someone like MTG appears sane in this environment, or appears like the reasonable one, and even just as a somewhat more recent example, again, and somewhat not really strictly related to politics, but more on the entertainment side, but bled into politics, of like the passing of Rob Reiner. Was a famous director, and like, I don't know if you saw like Trump's tweet about that.
We all saw it, of course.
Yeah, and just like backlash, and even MTG was like, okay, like, this is like unhinged on Trump's part to respond in this manner to someone's passing. Also, the hypocrisy in terms of Charlie Kirk and all that stuff. But yeah, very strange times as always.
Yeah, they never meant it. Like, they're always BSing us when the Charlie Kirk thing happened, talking about the right and their decorum with their enemies, right? And we would never
celebrate anybody's death.
Literally, we had, I believe it was, I forget which one, the Weinstein brothers, the Brett or Eric Weinstein.
They're both the same.
They're both, yeah, literally. A Weinstein, doesn't matter, interchangeable. Anyway, they put out a tweet specifically saying, hey, like, after Rob Reiner's death, um, take note left, right? Like we would never attack a person in the same way you guys attacked Charlie Kirk, right? A few hours later, Trump strikes. It's like
Exactly. Just let me pull that microphone away from you, and yeah, like what?
It's amazing. It's amazing, right? And like lemmings, there are some like right wingers who were like at first trying to be like conciliatory, but as soon as Trump speaks, right, they're
Yeah,
like, "Oh
that
yeah,
gives
that's
them
right. I'm an
permission to
NPC.
become
Yeah,
unhinged.
I'm an NPC. So like I'm gonna. Of course I'm gonna follow him. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna let all my worst impulses out. Of course, like right
Exactly.
now. Yeah, you guys never meant it. It's BS. Now I actually have a slightly different take on this than everyone else. So I'm gonna be consistent on this. Um, and Corey was around when we had a conversation like this in the Reverie. Like this is when Charlie Kirk died, right? Immediately afterwards. We didn't know you. At least I didn't know you at that time, Dr. Greg. But during that, I've said, and I'll continue to say that the dead are not immune to criticism. Um, I don't necessarily care if a person has recently passed. If they've done awful things, I'm gonna call it out. I'm just gonna do that. Um, like you can say, well, actually, I won't even qualify it. I think that like when an individual dies, yeah, like we can take stock of their life. That's a perfectly fine thing to do. Um, uh, but it's just like the other side pretended that they had some sort of that it was some sort of special insult just to say like the thing, just to repeat what Charlie Kirk had said, right? Just doing that. Remember, people are getting fired for that on like
It was
at the time,
wild.
right? Yeah,
Wild.
you were losing your job, right? Just for like saying a Charlie Kirk quote, right? Because it made it look awful because it's a goddamn racist, right? And so yes, I'll stand by that. Like Trump has the ability. I think he has a right to say how he feels about that. At the same time, though, I'll say that he is the president, and I don't think it's smart politically. And this was disastrous for him, right? Like the pushback, even from members of the right, even from people in his own party, because, and this is the last thing I'll say, because I'm going on for a bit here. Like it's weird. It's weird what actually breaks through to some people, right? Because not like Trump's like general brutality. Like Trump has actually immiserated people like far worse than like what's happened with Rob Reiner here. Like the amount of misery he's unleashed in this year, right, has been massive. That doesn't actually do anything to right wingers, right, to Republican voters, right? That part they like. It was just this lack of decorum in this very moment, right? And it seems very personal because it's an individual that they know, even if they don't like the guy, right? It's a individual that they know, and he died so gruesomely. It's really a shame, right? But like that felt more personal, as always. It is the thing is with right wingers is that like there has to be someone in their personal circle or someone they can like that looks like them for them to be able to relate to the subject. And so once that happened around Reiner, and then you see Trump attacking him the way Trump has attacked many other people, right? Especially brown people, especially women. He's done all of that, right? Now it's a problem, right? And if you were
Exactly.
Trump, it would actually Trump could be rightly confused by a situation. It's like I do this all the time, every day, all the time. I say the worst things about people. I've been doing it for years, and now you're mad at me. I would, from his perspective, it's right to be confused. What the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Greg.
I mean, I think that he is like I think it's because he's jealous of his how beloved like Rob Reiner was in the Hollywood, and because like Trump was really failed like in the Hollywood world, and he wished he could be bigger, but he wasn't. He was despised, and people didn't like working with him, and he had to kind of create this reality television false persona and all that kind of stuff, which eventually got him elected president. But I think that he was jealous. I think that that's what it all came out from, like out of nowhere, and you're like, what did this happen from? It's just jealousy, like
Probably. Like, well, this definitely wouldn't surprise me. And like, Trump could have just like not said anything. Although like if is it
No, he
actually him?
couldn't. No, he couldn't
No,
have
well,
not
no, I'm
said
saying like
anything.
on paper because it's like he's even though his roots are let's say in show business and I guess maybe real estate or whatever or the failed casino business, but I think it's fair to say he's a politician now. Maybe not a good one, but like he's still and so he could have just like not said anything. But like because like that was even though it's a noteworthy Hollywood person, unfortunately, passing away or under very tragic circumstances, like he could have just like not said anything at all and it would have been just like totally fine. But no, but just given the fact that yes, I believe Rob Reiner was somewhat vocal about his disliking of
Very
Trump.
vocal. He was very vocal.
Yeah, pretty. Yeah. But I don't think I haven't done a deep dive, but I don't think Rob Reiner has said anything really out of pocket. Like I think he had us like as a typical Hollywood person, very left leaning and progressive. But I think overall, and I don't think Rob Reiner ever said anything totally like over
He didn't
the
say
line.
anything like Trump because he's not Trump.
Yeah,
He's
yeah, exactly.
not Trump.
But yeah, but just by virtue of the fact that someone didn't like Trump, then yes, Trump obviously could not control himself. Of like, well, yes, now is my time. Now that they've been allegedly or presumably murdered, now is my time to say something horrific about this person because they just pretty much obviously a spite-driven message. Essentially, in my mind, dancing on someone's grave when they haven't even been put in the ground yet, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's oppositions, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's just it's people being exactly. It's open season if you criticize Trump and he's jealous of you, and now he has the moral up on you because he's alive and you're not. It's just like it's just using a weird time in order to. He would never have said that in real life about him. It you know I can understand Prime's point, and I think it's fair, like that people's legacy lives on, so you can criticize it, and you can talk about like once it's happened, and unfortunately, it's just really sad, that three kids, the oldest one kind of like goes and has a problem with addiction, and they've kind of had to battle it their entire life. And I mean, just imagine like your oldest brother taking out both of your parents. You know what I mean? Like, dude, like that's the biggest tragedy for me, where I'm just like, he could have just like gone off in the sunset and just did his own thing and never was a part of the family, but he like stole his parents from his siblings too. Like, I mean, it's just
I think his
it's just
daughter found the
it's just a
parents,
crazy tragedy. I feel like really sad, man. I guess it's just
Apparently he's
because
had
I
mental
just
issues, so no, he can't just like walk away.
yeah, but well, he could have at least walked away from the family and just dealt with it himself. He didn't have to take it out.
But I'm saying, I mean, if that would be the rational thing to do, that's what I'm saying. He's
Oh
not
yeah, okay,
rational.
gotcha. True. Yeah, I mean, apparently Rob Reiner was like trying to. I mean, ever since 2015 when they did a movie together, he was trying to bring him into the fold, trying to help with them, and I don't know. It's just really sad. I felt like it's just
Yeah, definitely sad and horrific. And I whether we'll ever truly get any answers, but I'd be curious to know if this person was in the throes of addiction when they did it. Of like did they, let's say, come to their senses at a point and realize that they did this to their parents, or like this was like an actual truly intentional act? Whether that question will be answered, I don't know. But I'm hoping at some point that can be answered, because it's like
yeah.
Thanks, Book TV, for the raid on Twitch. Much appreciated.
Thanks,
Hope you're
man.
doing well. And Corey, are you streaming?
Yeah, I am.
All right, I will do a stream thing. With
yeah,
the
absolutely.
lab thing. But yeah. So, fellas, like, and to the people who just came in, on my end, yeah, we've been moving from subject to subject here. First, we were talking about Trump's very, very, very strange address to the nation, which is where, and another thing about this address, and so someone else pointed out, is that like within like a month or two, like I believe in early February, is the State of the Union, right? Like
Mhm.
that's when you would normally just like do this, right? And like everyone's going to come to watch, and you'll have Congress in front of you, right? Like, and that's your chance to do this. Like, that'll be much more watched even than that address, right? So like that would have been the opportunity. But like I was saying before, I think really he's just been holding it all in. Well, barely, right? Watching, like, I say that in quotes, holding it all in. I mean, as best as Trump can ever do anything like that, right? Sit still. But anyway, he's been watching the polls, watching disapproval, right? And even on like the right, like people like even with the conservative circles, there's like breakaway, right? Because people can smell weakness, and they're all about like strength and weakness on the on the conservatives, right?
Yeah.
And so like if Trump just doesn't have the juice, then yeah, people are going to be challenging him. So he's watching all of this happen, and this is like an effort to take control. He goes out there and just like makes wild, like completely wild and like a falsifiable claims, but again, to be fair, he does that all the time, right? And that's it's usually not a problem. He makes false, like patently false claims. It's usually not an issue. But he goes out there and he's like literally like yelling into the camera, right? And doing his ramble thing. And Corey was right. This was like like a watered down version of his regular speech, right? Of his like campaign style speeches. This is what? Sorry, I heard some noise.
I think
But anyway,
I think Greg
Sorry.
is.
Go ahead. Sorry, I was trying to fix something. Sorry, go.
no, sorry. Well, I was just about done. Anyway, right. But the point is that it was a watered down version of his speech. And it was just, it's so like, okay, I know it's cliche to say it, but like it's always effective to do so. Imagine if Biden or Obama did a speech like this. Just imagine, like imagine, right? How right the conservative media reacted to the rambling, right, and the unhinged nonsense. But it's just baked in with Trump, and then like the president did a ringing speech, right? It really like addressed the issues the nation is facing. Whatever.
And it just as further to, I don't know how strange it was, even though it was more or less just a watered down rally. It seemed like the way it ended, because he sort of like towards the end, he was like trying to tie it in, or like this seemed to be like, sort of a happy holidays type of thing, like, and it's like the address, because he ended up like, hope everyone has a great holidays. I think he said like Merry Christmas, but then like, yeah, it was like trying to do like a tone shift, like he was screaming, everything is great, here's your warrior dividend, and hope everyone like has a great, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. And it's like, this is so bizarre, or like, I don't know, that's not very cheery or upbeat, because yeah, very perverse.
Yeah, I guess. Do you guys want to talk about the files that were released today, or the lack thereof? I'm just like curious. Like we talked about it in passing, but I'm so curious. Like, what you guys feel like?
I briefly perused some stuff, but I didn't take I pretty much more or less, at least from what I can tell, virtually everything that's been there's nothing overly interesting, just like because everything's virtually been redacted. I could be wrong about that. I'm happy to discuss them, but I don't know very much about them other than like the main message appears to be that nothing's really in there.
Yeah, I did a cursory search of Trump and Bill Clinton, and it was wild. Like Trump has two random photos of like a closet or something. It's like the most, like nothing in there. There's no pictures or mentions of Trump anywhere in the photos at all. And then and then sure enough, like I searched Bill Clinton, and it's just like 10 pages, hundreds of mentions, hundreds of and you're just like, oh my gosh, man, the way that they kind of just absolutely or like throwing everything out except for Trump. Trump obviously is saved by this whole thing, and then now it's just wild. It's such a joke, man.
But I still think, obviously, again, if what I came across is true, and it's hard to tell these
Mm-hmm.
days, but there did appear to be some explicit mentions of Trump in there, because I think there was one sort of
Oh,
like
really? That's good.
excerpt.
Maybe it's in cursive or something
Well,
that
no, it's
they
because
that was.
according to what I saw on Twitter of like they may not have like done their due diligence in redacting, because it's like, because you can say Donald Trump, or you can search for Donald J Trump, where if you do Control F of Donald Trump, you'll obviously find Donald Trump. But if you write out Donald J Trump, that might get overlooked in a Control F. Well, that will get overlooked if you just Control F of Donald Trump.
Interesting.
And so I believe of the sort of like blurbs or sort of the small excerpts that I saw, it was like Donald J Trump was mentioned, and if they were just Control Fing Donald Trump, that would have gotten overlooked.
Why
Huh.
not just write Trump? If you're doing a Control F search, just write Trump.
Well,
Yeah, I tried both of them. Yeah, they actually released a search thing that you can like
searchable
put
database
something.
of
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen that. If you got a link to that, please share. I'll take a look.
Yeah,
Corey,
yeah.
I sent the link to the stream together.
did you?
Here's the
1 second.
it's justice.gov/Epstein, and you can just kind of like see, and yeah, it's pretty wild, man.
Justice.gov.Epstein
/Epstein.
Okay, so the Justice Department actually did that. Okay, that's surprising.
Well, they're more easy to to curate the results. What's the counter behind me? So our vaccines is the amount of vaccines that our community has gotten. So we have gotten, as people get vaccinated, and then we celebrate them getting vaccinated, because we love when people take public health seriously. And then political actions is when we phone call and we email in support of public health and science measures and bills throughout the country. So we've done 1,100 emails and phone calls, and we actually have a cool update this week, guys. This is actually a cool thing. Segue while we're looking at the files or whatever. The bills that we were talking about, so about a week and a half ago, we got emailed by a physician in Pennsylvania that he was supporting a bill that was going to expand, will enshrine vaccine access in Pennsylvania. He had two bills specifically. One, to make it so that the insurance companies in Pennsylvania listen to more than just the CDC and the FDA in regards to insurance. Making it okay for insurance to cover something, and then two, making it so that technicians and non-physicians can still give flu shots, because that's another way that they're trying to restrict access, is trying to say that only physicians can do it, because you have to have a prescription to get a vaccine now. So those are the two ways that they're doing it. And this physician was basically enshrining this in the law, that yes, you can get a recommendation outside of the CDC from the APA or AMA or something like that, and then also technicians can give vaccines, because it's just an intramuscular shot. It's really easy. Anyway, so we were calling. One of them had not made it to the Senate yet, the state Senate, and we were calling in the last week in order to try to get it past the House, and we did it, and we helped do that. So it actually passed the House 107 to 96 in the Pennsylvania State House. So both of the bills are into the Pennsylvania State Senate. So it's very cool. So we are putting our ire and our focus into the Pennsylvania State Senate, and so it's going to be awesome. Like, I think that it's going to be hopefully enshrining these laws. This could be the start of, Illinois has done it, Pennsylvania is doing it now. This could be a way that Democratic states actually push back and actually enshrine some of this and create legislation to help vaccine access going forward in the future.
Nice, that's awesome. Good for you and your community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been really cool. No face. I think it's I don't think it's taking scientists out of it. It's creating. So right now what's happened is that, basically once the CDC removed their recommendation of a vaccine, insurance companies can no longer cover that. So what's happened is that it takes the insurance premium, like the insurance isn't going to pay for vaccines in some parts in the country anymore. So there's other organizations that are like the American Medical Association and the um, American AAP, is the physicians group and stuff. They make recommendations as well. So what you're trying to do is just trying to say, hey, these are the other people are legit. We can take these, and if an insurance company uses that as a recommendation, then that's legit too. Which vaccines? I think that there was a bunch of them for COVID, for example. I know COVID for yeah, that was a big one.
Um, yeah. Sorry, I'm just looking at these files, and
Yeah, nice, good.
there's not much to say. So much of
I
them are
know.
just like straight up like heavily redacted. Like I mean, I'd seen like little bits of this online, and it's just I don't know, man. Also like it's just tough to for the parts like so I found something that's not like heavily redacted, at least as far as I can tell here. But like it's hard to like place these things in context. Like where I'll need like a team of people to do that for me. Because like what has been released already, I don't know, right? Like you have to really dedicate yourself to have a deep understanding of that. And then like what is actually important, right? Because I'm sure a lot of this is just nothing burger. It's a a, a glimpse of this man's life, but not everything he was doing was of like interest to the public. Um, but a lot of what he was doing had interest to the public. I do want to make that clear. This guy was incredibly powerful, like incredibly powerful, in ways I don't think most people have actually put together. Um, like how much access this man had. Um, that really hasn't been reckoned with in terms of public coverage. But still, in the end, like to like parse these files is quite difficult if you aren't like deep into all this. So like I think I'll just have to wait till a trusted source does this for me.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. Well, aside from like what I view on Twitter and other people that are, I guess, digging through the files. Even then, I take everything that I see on Twitter with a massive grain of salt because I don't know what's real on Twitter anymore.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
did
mean,
you have thoughts you want to share?
I think it's like, I mean, I think it's funny that, um, I, I mean, why redact these things if they were so nonchalant that they forgot they even existed, or I mean, they've lied about these so many different times, that they did exist, now they didn't exist, now they're so important that they need to be redacted, now there's so many ongoing cases that there needs to be redacted, but there also isn't anything in there that's worth mentioning, and everyone that's in jail for anything for this is all being pardoned. So like, oh, hey, what's up, username? You can request up, dude. So, oh, you don't have enough followers. um, so it's just like, it's just every which way. Hey, Mrs. Dr. G, what's up? Um, so it's just embarrassing, man. I think like embarrassing for Trump supporters, I feel like, because it's just like they've been, it's just that, fell for it again award. You know what I mean? Where you're just like, bro, like how many times do we have to go through this? It is just wild.
Well, if anything, uh, they should be even more embarrassed because I think just like in the past couple of days, like Trump, I think has explicitly said like, essentially, as usual, the talking point changes of like, well, the Epstein files is just a Democrat hoax, and I think he
Mm-hmm.
explicitly said like, if anybody believes in them, even if you're a Republican, like you're kind of an idiot, and so it's like, well, Trump is pretty much calling a large portion of his base idiots,
Mm-hmm.
but again, I don't think that will actually affect anything. Uh, but yeah, in my opinion, like there's clearly something there, but like I think we're never going to find out because it's like they have no interest clearly in actually being, even though they say this is the most transparent presidency of all time. Obviously, that's a lie.
Dude, I think that this is like honestly, I think this is the Democrats like email server thing. I think you just you just bring it up in every conversation constantly, and there's nothing. I would bring it back constantly because it's a good example how Trump is out only for himself and how he doesn't care about anyone else other than his own bottom line and saving his own face, and that he's not out there because he is their avatar fighting for them in their minds, right? And it's just so transparently obvious that like this is an instance where he could do the right thing and he chose not to every single time in order to just protect his can. So I think the Democrats want to bring um the Democrats just want to bring this up constantly.
They probably should. I think it's a clearly a winning strategy. Or I guess we'll
Mhm.
find out in the midterms. But
Yeah.
Uh, but I mean, I don't know. Look, I think the public, um, is hungry for transparency. I think uh, even Trump supporters are coming to terms with the fact that Trump was deeply involved with Epstein, even though all the conservative media is trying to pretend that that wasn't the case. Um, so there's that. But like Democrats are implicated. Um, Epstein was close to, and this is what I'm saying. Like again, the pub people haven't really reckoned with like what kind of person Epstein was. Epstein was the ultimate power player. Epstein was in Democrat and Republican White Houses. He was with all
yeah,
those. I mean,
affiliated with the
clearly he was very,
Clintons, Bill
yeah,
Gates,
clearly Clinton, yeah.
etc.
But like he wasn't palling around with Obama the way he was with Clinton. But he was in the Obama White House. He was just so well connected to so many people, international players, not just presidents
Mm.
like American presidents, but international presidents. He was helping, if I remember correctly, he was helping Ehud Barak, a former Israel prime minister. He helped him set up a meeting with Vladimir Putin. Right,
Mm.
like the former PM of Israel, he couldn't make the meeting, right? He called Epstein, and Epstein made that meeting happen.
That's wild.
Epstein is in the middle of all of these things. Epstein is apparently involved with it. He was involved in Iran Contra. We're just learning. A Drop Site News
Wow.
put out an article. Iran Contra. He was deeply involved in that. He is
Dude, that's
involved in
crazy.
everything. Like people don't understand how powerful this man was, and that like he had his hands in so many things. And like yes, he could just like set up a meeting. Like oh, do you want to go to White? He was with Ehud Barak. He was like very close to this guy again, the former prime minister of Israel, right? He wanted to have a tour of the White House. Right, he was going to take his grandkids there, right? And to
Mhm.
impress them. Look at me, right? I get a tour, right? Who's it called? He calls Epstein. Epstein makes it happen. He makes a call, and all of a sudden you get a tour of the
Yeah.
White House. You can all those classified places you go because of Epstein.
Wow, dude.
Epstein was so powerful. You don't understand how powerful this guy was, right? And like so since he had so many connections, so many power players, it makes sense that like a lot of Democrats actually don't want to bring this up. Like you're saying, like
Mm.
we should just bring this up all the time. Well, those Democrats don't want to because all of them are implicated. The DNC is implicated. Everyone's implicated.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
well,
I
uh, I was just gonna ask if you know, because like I haven't done a deep dive on Epstein's background, but like was it just purely just the fact that he was wealthy that he was like able to get rise to the ultimate?
No, it's because he's an intelligence officer for Mossad. He was
well
like
Oh,
that
okay,
he was
okay, that
deeply he was working for Mossad. It was obvious he was working for Mossad. This is not like a conspiracy theory or anything. No, he was working for Mossad. He was every all of the. I mean, like I was just talking about him and an Israeli prime minister, right? He had an Israeli spy that was staying at his house, right? It was staying there multiple times. They just come and stay at his house, I believe, in New York, and just like chill there, right? Doing spy stuff, right? Like an Israeli, like he and for Iran Contra, right? Yeah, that the Israel has always been very interested in what's going on with Iran there, right?
Mhm.
Like and everything that he does, Israel pops up, and of course, Ghislaine Maxwell, his. I mean, I really still don't understand what the relationship was. Honestly, I actually don't know. I don't. I don't get that. But whatever they were doing together, right? She's the daughter of one of the most decorated Israeli spies, intelligence officers there is, Robert Maxwell, right? Like, we know that he went to Israel plenty of times and met with all the power players there, right? He was their man in Washington. That was Epstein was that guy. Yes, he was deeply into the intelligence world. And so yes, like the money, but the how he got the money is in
We don't
itself like
know.
a mystery because he doesn't
Yeah,
he
we don't
wasn't actually
know.
doing he wasn't a financier, right?
Yeah, he
And
was gonna get fired from Bear Stearns, and then all of a sudden he starts managing like billionaire accounts. It's like
he
it
was
is very
managing
weird.
the accounts of this guy named this billionaire named Wexler. I forgot his first name. But this guy Wexler, he was managing his accounts, but not just his accounts. Wexler had Epstein, if I'm remembering this correctly, power of attorney over
Hmm.
him. He didn't need why him? Why Epstein? Power of attorney, right? No, you just don't do that for just anyone. He handed it to Epstein, right? Wexler, another big Israel booster, um, and advocate for Zionism. Yeah, for some reason he hands over his power to this random. He doesn't have a finance background. He doesn't have a finance background, but he's all of a sudden in control of all his accounts, in control
Mhm.
of his health decisions. How did that happen? How
Yeah.
did that happen? Yeah.
Yeah, it is very weird, man. I mean, how much do you think it is though? Like, probably, don't you think that billionaires are just like kind of connected though to a lot of different things too? You know, like I mean, as a billionaire, they must be like have a lot of money, a lot of different. With power comes money. With money comes power, right? So they just have a ton of hands in a lot of different stuff, and I think that that's like where like the MIT connection comes from. You know, people are really shady about like the money that he was donating to MIT and thinks that like that whole institution now should be raised to the ground. And
I don't know about this MIT thing. Could you explain that to me?
yeah, well, I mean, he basically donated money to MIT. You
Epstein.
know, yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I think he was
yeah.
trying to fund
So
actual research,
mhm.
researchers at MIT.
Yeah, so yeah, there's a bunch of like researchers and stuff that are implicated and stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know. It's hard. There's I don't the reach of a billionaire is we can't really comprehend. I feel like they're just gonna have they're just gonna have their hands on a lot of different things unless they're directly connected to it and they're like, you know,
I
I
would
don't know.
agree, but the things that I'm talking about, this was like Epstein's doing, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it wasn't
exactly.
him,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, putting money into a certain thing and saying good luck with that, right? No, he was directly involved. But I take your point that like billionaires like have their hands in so much because their money allows them to reach into so many things, right? And so like I hadn't heard about this MIT thing, but like just going off what you just said, right? Like I wouldn't think necessarily anything untoward about those MIT researchers, right? Unless, like, one, if they were researching something for Israel, I mean, that would show me it's probably like the defense technology, you know, that might be something that they were doing. But again, I don't know. But that would be a red flag for me. But other than that, he might Epstein, you know, knows a lot of people and maybe cares about someone and they have some sort of horrible disease and let me find some people at MIT to help with that. I don't know, man. So that wouldn't immediately say anything to me. Yeah.
It loosely reminds me. This is not like a one-to-one analogy, but at least what springs to mind. And like, let's I'll take you at your word that he had strong links with the intelligence agency, and that was a critical element in his rise. But then I think the fact that whatever he was either he cultivated his own wealth or he was somehow coincidentally wealthy. I think that also played a factor as well. But it's sort of like what comes to mind is Elizabeth Holmes and how she had a rise to power in terms of like it seems like as long as you get the rubber stamp of approval of like one or two few powerful people, then that just allows you to just like rise up the ranks. Like Elizabeth Holmes got towards the White House and met presidents when she was literally running like a fake company. But since she had some credibility in terms of she did get wealthy investors and she got a few powerful people on board. But then once you establish some limited credibility with some powerful people, then it's like, well, more people will just like flock to you, especially obviously wealthy and powerful politicians.
I see how you're making this connection. My pushback is that like um Epstein was actually competent. He like
Very
for
that's
what he
fair.
was trying to do, right? Being an intelligence asset, right? Gathering compromise on everyone who was in his orbit, and also um, like uh, like running like various other intelligence, like either running intelligence operations or like putting people in contact with other people, like being like a networker, right? You want to be the guy in between, right? That people go to for favors, right? To meet other powerful people. If you can be that guy, the middleman, there's so much money and so much opportunities there for you. He seemed, from what I can tell, very good at that. Um, and so like, yeah, so but I would agree that like the way he got started, like goes to what you were saying, Corey, right? Like that he was like the math teacher, the high school math teacher or whatever, right? And he left that, and then he ends up within a stock trading company, Bear Stearns, I think, right? Um, and then he was just like a nobody there, but all of a sudden he's managing major accounts, right? Yes, he had gotten himself in the right room with the right people, um, and they put the word out that this is our guy, and so that opened the doors for him. But from there, like the competence took place, and he actually like because he it wasn't just a few years he's been doing this. Like I said, Iran Contra, he's been
True. Yeah.
decades, right?
It's
Like he's
wild,
been
dude.
at this, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I take your point that not that this is a testament to his character, but yeah, probably a little bit more competent in the ability to actually rise up the ranks. But if anything, that might be a testament to Elizabeth Holmes as well. Of like, like given the fact that everything about her was a fraud, and yet she was still able to rise so high. It didn't last very long, but she was
But
up
that's
there.
the difference. Yeah, that not being able to last long because like it was a house of cards, right? Like easily blown down, right?
That still took a
Like
number of years. I think many people would trade in many years of their life just for like the 5 years that she had at that
fair,
rise
no,
to
that's
power.
fair. No, and I hear you, but like I'm just saying that like it wasn't going to last. She was so desperate to get some sort of product out that was money making one because the one she had was completely infeasible. And so yes, she could fool people, but like at some point she needed to put out a product she couldn't, and so then she tried to fake that product, and then that relied on everyone working under her to never actually open their mouths, which is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I mean, so then what do you think is all the redactions then? I mean, are the redactions, obviously Trump is in there for sure, but is Trump like holding some of that like as blackmail himself? Because he's gonna pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, the only person that is actually being held for any charge and related to this mess. But then
There's
like
no point blackmailing Ghislaine though, right?
no, but
We, we
but all the different pages, all those pages can't all be Trump though, right? I mean, unless
You mean blackmail for other powerful people?
yeah, exactly. He like
Mm.
playing those cards himself now? He has like in his possession all this this stuff that he doesn't want to get out. I mean, why else would he not release that? It just
Because
seems
he's
like an
implicated.
absurd. He is
Because there's
definitely, but
something.
why not throw everyone
Mm.
else in under the bus? He's doing that with Elon. Yeah, Elon's in there. Elon's was doing meet and greets at the island. So like, Bill Clinton obviously is being thrown under the bus. So like, why not do that with all these other politicians if you're Trump? Like, that's what I don't understand. That so much is redacted here, like so
No,
much.
it's a lot. Like I was just looking at a document, and damn near 97% of it was redacted.
Yeah,
Um,
and it can't be all Trump. I mean, but obviously the Trump stuff is redacted, obviously, right? But so it's like, what is he? I don't understand it.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
either. It is so weird.
It's that Trump 5D 60 chess, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I feel like he's I don't know. I don't know. It can't be all him. It can't be all him, and it can't be I think that
Well, it could be. I wouldn't totally eject that idea from your mind. But
I mean, they were best friends, man. You know, he and they hung out for a really long time, for like decades, and so I'd be shocked if it was like that much, but
It
obviously
could
he's
be
in there.
that like they also don't know what damaging things can be like turned back on them, right? Like, um, Larry Summers is in the files, right? Disgusting ass Larry Summers, and screw that guy. But anyway, let's say that like his name appears more often, but like a lot of that's redacted. Well, maybe like if you follow the Larry Summers thread, then that leads to whatever it is Trump is hiding within the files, right? Like, yeah, they're not sure like in what securitous route. You know the word I'm looking for, right?
yeah,
They're not sure in what way that like a reporter could follow that would lead to something else that they
or
don't
yeah,
that we
like
don't
what thread they
currently
can pull
know.
that will lead back to Trump or
Yeah,
whatnot. Yeah,
that's the best answer I have for you, really. That like, hey, let's be extremely liberal with our redactions, right? Like if there's any question about it, simply redact, right? Um, rather than give someone something that might be at all useful.
Yeah, I mean, low. I mean, that was kind of like what I was saying. Like, why if there's a bunch of MIT researchers or something, and they're not actually implicated, and it's like for the Epstein Foundation or something like that he had that was like legitimately for some type of education or something like that, then like, would you want to redact that or not? I guess like the idea being that if you redact it, you kind of like that they're safe and there's no reason to cover that up and they weren't implicated, and just putting their name in there is going to possibly implicate them in the future, and you want them to have good federal contracts going forward, that kind of thing, versus like having their name in there. But then you could also say, hey, it's like transparency and we were in there and we didn't do anything. But yeah, I don't know. It's very weird. I guess I could think about it in both ways. It's very damning to be anywhere in there, and you definitely don't want to be. I would not want to be anywhere in there, even in the guise of transparency, right?
Certainly, my
Yeah.
name to be searchable there. Certainly not.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Even if it's something completely innocuous, because again, like you said, Doctor Gray, and I think the point is really well made. That like, yeah, I mean, if you've got money and you're powerful and you're well connected, then people will flock to you innocently enough
Mhm.
and just be in your orbit because you've got money and you're powerful, you're well connected. People tend to be attracted to those things. And they may not know about many of the other stuff, right? Um, but I don't know.
They
But at
do
the
have
same
to
time, go ahead.
that they do have in regards to redactions, they have to make an explanation. If it's the same ones, if the ones that are, and this is why I think, because they're released today in regards to that thing that was passed, um, they have to make a disclosure of why they redacted those specific things. So, yeah.
It says so in the corners of the pages, like why they redacted a thing.
I'm sure they can't
But
just give some vague, ambiguous reason of like whatever. But
that's
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly what they did.
it's an active investigation or something. Hey Heather, how's it going?
Hi. So I've been listening to Virginia Dufresne's book about called Nobody's Girl.
Mhm.
And she was like the famous like Epstein victim who was in the picture with the prince.
Mhm.
Uh, and anyway, but when they raided like all his properties, there were just thousands and thousands of photos of young girls, like naked young girls everywhere in all his homes framed. So anyone going to his parties, whether it's New York or his island or Florida, every single, like they all saw it. It was in murals all on his walls. Like, so at this point, I feel like even if you're just, oh, well, we were invited for a dinner party, you're still like an accomplice. Like, you didn't speak up. Like, they all knew, and they all need to burn.
That's
Like,
it's
Do
funny.
we know if they were under 18? Like for the
yes,
all pictures? Okay, all right.
yes, a lot of them, yes. I mean, a lot of the women in the photos that have been, so a lot of people don't remember, but he was already indicted and literally got away with like 18 months in jail, but I'm using air quotes, because and was this like 2017? I don't know. He was investigated.
It was like 2006 in Florida, and that
Oh
was
yeah,
and that
yeah.
was one of the attorney generals that did that case, and
That Trump had.
that Trump appointed. So it's like a weird.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was the one who like basically made it to where they actually fooled and tricked the victim, saying that basically they were trying, I think it was kind of like they were trying to suss out the victims, to find them and to see who would talk, and then they would get threats by Ghislaine and everybody else. But anyways, yeah, he went to jail, but he was allowed to be out of it and go to his work, which was a nonprofit or something thing that it was set up for like science. He was really big into all the AI people.
Yeah.
And he could work 12 hours every day. He could be gone. And they even found that he was abusing girls at the office. And when he was released from jail, served his time, he quickly closed that foundation or whatever that thing was. And but yeah, like, he was still abusing, and so he was proud and like bragged that he basically got away with it. And so I think that's why all these people, even right now, they're not that worried, because they were still like, all these Clinton and all these people were still going to his parties, even though he was found guilty of this crime.
Because because he wasn't charged for it. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're like, oh, got away with it. And so whatever. And, you could argue that Prince Andrew still gets away with it, I mean, sort of. I mean, I guess like Prince, who is the prince? King Charles, whatever.
Yeah.
Or somebody officially. But like, even Queen Elizabeth didn't like come down on that. You know what I mean? She barely removed. I don't even think she removed titles or whatever. But now I think he's been stripped of his.
Yeah. The king did. Yeah. King Charles did.
Royal stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But yeah, like, I would. This book is. She's a really good writer. Like, she was, right?
She didn't write it by herself.
No, but I think she's I think she is pretty talented, though. Like, she was obviously like an avid reader and all that stuff. But anyway, yeah, like, I would, the first few chapters are really, really awful and hard, but then you start mixing in. But very brave, and all these girls who, on these victims who are disappointed when they see what was, quote, released today, and how it doesn't match up what their experience. And I assume that they can't just go and list all their stories, because there are going to probably be trials, I assume. Or that's their hope for. I'm not sure. Like,
they can
Ghislaine's the
list
only
their
one.
stories, but some people are trying to protect their mental health as well, from what they've been through already, and they're speaking out about it. And the very little support they've gotten from our government, from Congress, with a handful of people that are standing by this. But all the history that you're all talking about, you're not even going back far enough. And to address one of the gentlemen, I don't remember which person said it because I wasn't looking at my phone, but the question was asked, were they under 18? Really, that question literally makes me livid. Why would it matter if they were 17 and a half, 14, or 20? Those
some were 11.
Excuse me, please. You spoke? Those photographs of all those women that were around his properties, they were in bondage in many of those photographs. They were showing them in torturous situations. The age should be irrelevant. The abuse of women is the issue here. The underage part of that is the crime. There's a lot more. Vanity Fair tried to release an article, a full article on Epstein the first time he was charged, and it was squashed by our government. And you can go research this, and you can see Vanity Fair tried to out Epstein 3 decades ago. This information that's being released now is a joke. It doesn't even scratch the surface. I live on the East Coast. I worked in New York City. Personally know people that worked, my dad was in banking, who worked within the finance industry, knew everything that was going on. My dad retired early and basically without saying it in those days, because things like that were taboo to even speak about with your family, because you would put people in danger, because he knew things he never wanted to speak about. And he's deceased now. I wish he was here to see that there's some vindication of what people were reporting. The Clintons and the Trumps were best of friends. Their daughters grew up together, Chelsea and Ivanka, written about all over society pages and on page 6. These people know everything. The depths of this goes way deeper than what's even being talked about now. It goes back at least 40 years. Epstein was also banned from being on the property. What's the technical school in New York City that's in the Village? I can't remember the name. Cooper Union. Because he was there and he was scoping out girls there, and they reported it and they told him to get lost. Okay. He's been a predator his entire career. Whatever political attachment he had gave him permission to keep doing the things he'd always been doing, because he was providing some part of our government things that they wanted, and basically they turned a blind eye to things he did in his personal life. And that afforded him the ability to have access to all these very important and wealthy people whose names we will never know, people behind the scenes that have been funding our government forever, who are in control still to this day. That's who they're protecting. Donald Trump isn't protecting himself. He's protecting other people. And I'm not even saying it in a way that's a non-selfish protecting. He's just aware that the things that he did, he will never be brought to account for. He's already risen above so many accusations, and there isn't going to be any repercussions for him. He'll die before that'll ever happen, just because he's of old age. But the people that were functioning in New York City at that time, the people in the social circles, in society pages that were being written about, Chelsea was interviewed when Donald Trump won, Chelsea being the Clintons' daughter, about her friendship with Ivanka, and said, "We will never not be friends. We have grown up together. We'll be friends forever." Well, that didn't last for long. That didn't age well. The Clintons is another whole subject matter. I'm not going to even, delve into that area, but they've known about it. They've been part of it. Even when Hillary got in public and said, the Republicans are trying to frame my husband, he never did this, when they're talking about Monica Lewinsky, she was already covering up for him when he was governor of Arkansas. So please, save that issue about anybody being innocent in any of this and there being a lack of information. There isn't a lack. This is only what is being allowed to be known now. But if you do a deep dive and go back 30 years, there was even more that was being spoken about that flew under the radar and was squelched because the damage would have been more severe than what you think you see now. So all those girls and young women, and by the way, boys as well, they're all victims. I don't care what their age is.
So I'll respond to that. One, I agree with the vast majority of what you said. I think is one point. I think that, like a lot of people knew. I think they absolutely knew. yeah, I'll just leave it at that because it's hard to parse, these connections. But there was a lot
Right.
of talk happening, right? But
Right.
I
There
will
was
push
more than
back.
talk.
Sure, I will push back a little bit on the photos. Like, I think the ages are important. Like, if I was at a dinner party, right, and I saw photos, and again, I haven't seen these photos, so I don't know like what the context is, right? But you're saying that they're within some sort of uh,
How could you have not
kink.
seen the photos? We've all seen the photos. There
I
are
haven't seen the
photos
Although
of
not
photos.
everyone, I
Not
haven't seen the photos either.
Yeah, we
Okay, well,
haven't seen the photos.
they've been released for weeks now. This isn't new, and they're in bondage. I don't care what age
I
you
guarantee
are.
Well,
there's
hold on,
millions
hold
of
on.
people that haven't
You
seen the
have
photos.
girls that are being
Millions.
exploited, who are being tied up, and then you frame a picture of their ankles, their wrists, a gag in their mouth. Go and look.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult to
Okay,
find the
sure.
photo.
Okay. That all right. And I will look them up.
Yeah,
But
please
at the
don't
same
defend
time,
something and say that
hold
you're
on,
admitting you've never seen them.
hold
Don't
on.
defend them.
Excuse me. Let me just respond. Very quickly. So I'll take a look, right? Because I want to be more informed. But adults can consent to kink, right? Like, there are
I'm not
photos
talking
of
about
something
adults.
like this that, like, people, there are plenty of photos like this where people consent, right? And, like, assuming this person wasn't Epstein, right? That we're referring to. But if I had seen photos like this at someone else's house, right? And they explained to me, oh yeah, this is just like something I found in some sort of like kinky art gallery. I'm like, oh, okay, right? Assuming these people are above 18. So that was my only reason for bringing that up. But I take your point. Maybe these people were below 18, or that these people might have been, it might have been done without their consent. And he was just like advertising his crimes in front of people, which seems like a thing that he did quite often. But yeah, like,
Yeah,
people
it
can
was.
consent.
Yeah, and if you're talking about adults that are consenting and you're talking about art in the form of art, that would be a different story. But he didn't own an art gallery. This was his private residence and the
People can buy
island.
them
This
later
was
on. Yeah.
places he brought people to entertain them. And then you walk in and you see these kinds of things. It should give you cause for concern about his activities, even if there's just one underage girl in those pictures.
Well, yeah, but then again, the age matters, right? Like, if there is an underage girl, certainly, right?
There were
But
multiples.
no, and I believe you. That's why, but that's why I'm saying that's why the age does matter, though, for these things, because for an outside observer who doesn't who just like shows up at Epstein's place, right? Like, they wouldn't know otherwise, right? Like if you tell a person a story, oh, these are just some kinky photos I like to have. I mean, of adults. Well, then it is what it is, right? That's the thing you're allowed to do.
Yeah, and there's no problem with that. There's a photographer who did a whole exhibition series that caused an uprising in the 90s, but he was a photographer showing his art in an art form.
So something to keep in mind really quick, Prime, is that most of these women, that the victims that are women now, they were preyed upon and it got younger and younger and younger as the years went by, but anywhere from 11 to 17.
Yeah.
And also, Epstein was quoted, and didn't Trump even say, oh yeah, Epstein knows to like him young.
Yes.
Like, they do like to have him young. And even so, even if you said, okay, well, that was an adult woman in the picture, here's the problem, is all of these girls, these women, even if they were 18, they were specifically picked because they looked like they were 15. And the second these girls did not, say they were picked up at 15 and now they're aging out like 2021, guess what? They were aged out because they didn't look like a 15-year-old anymore.
Right, exactly.
And then he would elevate them into some became actresses or whatever. But when Epstein was in town, they had to go, and he would still traffic them to his buddies.
And they use them to traffic other people, to lure other girls.
Point out something? So another thing that people you might not know is so the Epstein the the temple, the white and blue stripe thing, is the same white and blue stripe. It looks the same as Ellen DeGeneres' set. So you got that, and then the dome on it is the dome from the mount on the mount, the temple on the mount.
On the mount.
And then you have, the temple. So it's got the same dome, and then you have the connections, of course, the white and blue that Mother Teresa would wear. And then Mother Teresa is Anthony Fauci's and then check it out. This gets heavy. So Mother Teresa is actually a man, and Mother Teresa is Anthony Fauci's dad. No shit. I even looked that up, and I was like, this, and then you can, then there's pictures with Mother Teresa and Robert Maxwell.
Hey, Bruce,
and that's
can I ask you something? Your name is Ethan, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would just like to say, as a victim of SA, now is not the time to start bringing in stupid conspiracy theories, because it dismisses the stories and the problem at hand. Okay, it's distracting from the crime, and it's not respectful, and it's a waste of everyone's time and energy, and it's not fair.
I mean, 98%. Conspiracy facts is 98% of what I deal with. And those are well-known things. I know it's hard for you to.
Now is not the time, dude.
So
well,
yeah,
I mean, as a Catholic in the Catholic religion, who at one point elevated Mother Teresa, we have since then found out, and Heather, to your point, that some of those conspiracy theories you're speaking of, I'm not talking about the Anthony Fauci part of it. That's the first time I've heard that. She was not exactly the nicest person. And she was not exactly someone who was a person of God and faith. So if you go back and read about her history, excuse me, please, let me finish my sentence. You go back and read about her history and about the things that she did in some of the centers she ran and the cruelty toward the poor, you'll understand what I'm referring to. So there is a different link to unkind, bad behavior toward poor and grooming the young for other reasons. This is a cyclical problem, and it always comes back to the same groups of people, not literally the same exact people, but the same groups that are related in other ways, not just monetarily, not just through their money, as someone was pointing out in the panel earlier that said, power and money, they always seem to find each other. Yes, they do. And they are living in a world that we don't understand, that we're not part of, that we don't even think like these people do. But beside that issue, they also come together on other levels, which I think, Heather, is what Boost is alluding to, even though some of it is getting way off track here to what you're talking about, meaning the files.
Well, I mean, and just, one more little step, there, if you, I don't know which way you want to go with, but now this is a little bit harder link to find, but Anthony Fauci's wife is Ghislaine Maxwell's sister. And I've seen pictures of them, but that's not. I'm not going to say 100%, but a possibility.
Yeah, but if you're talking about these kind of theories, why haven't you? If this is your thing, that you do controversy and you do conspiratorial, where is your research to prove what you just said? How do you make a statement like that when there's so much out there that you could go and try to verify what you're saying to be truer than just throwing that out there?
Those are, with there's a good group of people that's pretty accepted stuff. Like, I'm not going crazy stuff. I'm not saying JFK is still alive. No, these are like, I can tell, like, there's pictures, there's stuff that if you go and ask AI, it will try to steer you, but you can find routes that lead to it. Same with Anthony Fauci and with Mother Teresa, like the trafficking, the major trafficker, like most prolific trafficker in history. But and you look at like the pictures and it looks like a guy. And then I looked up there and I pulled it out of AI and they're like, yeah, there's several like people that were other nuns that commented, and they kept the autopsy private. Like there's a lot of there's
a lot of supposition there, but for a person who is promoting conspiracy theory and you're relying on AI to tell you the truth, I have a problem with just that. like serious food.
Well, I
Come
mean,
on.
the reason I'm just a
AI
lightweight.
is
Like,
feeding back to you whatever is being input to AI. So if that's
well,
your
I mean,
source,
I'm just,
that's
I'm
suspect
just,
right
I'm just,
there.
I'm going off of people that are much more well, but I do want to touch on Fauci and his involvement in the 80s, you know, with the AIDS epidemic and AZT.
All right, we're just not going to
and
talk about
so
that right
it-
now. Okay, so sorry, bro. Okay, so we were having a good conversation before you came in. So anyway, I'm sorry. Hey, Heather, do you want to respond to something?
Well, now I'm really mad.
Sorry.
I'm so
Understandable.
mad. Oh my God. Like, what the
Yeah.
hell, dude? Like, now is not the time. That dude is crazy. And, like, yeah. But here's the point is like, just like 75, like she said, is these women were preyed upon. They knew, okay, a lot of these women had already been abused. They were homeless, they were starving, all kinds of stuff, horrible things. And that's how it made them like susceptible to this and getting picked up. And then the amount of gaslighting, it's easy for us to say, oh, that would never happen. But when you're not used to a situation and suddenly this stuff, it kind of feels like your brain's like, no, you need to run. But then there's an adult, because Ghislaine was the one who was always in the room with these girls, training them. And
Yep.
she also assaulted all of them, or a
Yep.
whole bunch of them too.
Yep.
And so it like strips away each little layer of defense. And also, they don't have a history. I mean, first of all, they're children, but they also were never protected for the most part in their own lives. That, you know, like Virginia, her own father was doing this to her, and then also lent her out to his best friend who did that to her.
Yeah.
And then they're so trapped in trying to survive, you know, then they were groomed to try to find other girls for them. And and these girls are not proud of it. You know what I mean? But like that's horrifying to them. And
Well, they don't have any boundaries because, like you said, from their home life beginnings, they were being targeted. Back in those days in New York City, there used to be this front that was being used that I see it now as a front, but in those days we were all very concerned about it, about all the runaway girls that were being picked up in Port Authority, right? And being groomed like just like you're talking about at an early age, because their home life was so bad that they escaped that and then became victimized the second time by New York City, quote unquote, right? By crime in New York City. And these are the very types of stories that you're referring to. When you groom someone who's already so damaged that you could just find them on the street and they're willing to go with you, that's a red flag right there, that something in their life is already so wrong, so bad, that they're looking to any other adult to save them. And it's not a conscious decision either. It's ingrained in your behavior at some point. That even, I believe I heard a quote by someone on this app that is reading segments out of the book, that she said every time she looked to an adult, they disappointed her, but she kept going back, thinking the next time it would be better. Even when she tried to escape after he aged her out, Epstein, and then she would crave his attention. Because it's a cycle. It's grooming that begins at such an early age when they don't even have any participation in it in their own homes. When somebody in your own family or your neighbor or your relative or school teacher or the postman or whoever it is that started it with that person already broke down their barriers and were filling some kind of a need that was missing even at that time. And the immaturity of the mind, they can't understand that's what's happening. And then you grow up and then you grow into this system. They were groomed when they were underage, but they were still there as later on as adults. And when people make comments like, oh, they could just go out and leave now, they're on their own, they could get a job, they were paid, they were grown-ups now. You can't undo 5 or 10 years of that kind of environment and that mentality, that mindset in the victim's mind, and just decide, now I'm free and I can go out there. She did get many jobs, and she tried. She wrote it in her book, and she failed every time. She had to go back.
Here's the thing is like, these, again, they're children. They lack all of that adult support of anyone who ever protected them. Then they are immediately groomed, and it happens pretty quickly because they're also very desperate, right? But they're also, and something that has not come up, it's not just about grooming, they're also blackmailed. They were threatened. Again, there are children being threatened. If you say anything about this, I'm going to do this and this to your brother or whatever. And that's what they did to Virginia. They showed a picture of her little brother and said, we're watching him, and if you do anything, he will no longer exist. And so there's a lot of fear. It was a whole bunch of blackmail. It wasn't just, oh, you're leaving. It was real fear. And also it wasn't that Virginia couldn't just like, so when you are, I say it as a kid, it kind of stunts you emotionally. And you don't always get to grow up. And they always treated her like a kid. So even though, first of all, she didn't just age out like he gave her an out. She escaped. She played it well. She was very smart, and she endured horrible things, like you said, like about Jeffrey was buying books and getting trained in like how do you say masochism or whatever? I cannot say
sadomasochism.
Yes. And he was doing that to Virginia. He was having the guests do it to where, I mean, she was damaged.
Well, they were breaking all her resistance down.
Yeah,
Every
they were
time
doing
she tried to build herself up to the courage to do what she knew she was capable of doing. There was no one there to prop her up and support her and say, I'm here for you if you want to try to get out of this. All they did was keep breaking her down over and over and over again, as they did with the others whose names we don't necessarily know. And like you said, with the blackmail, keeping them constantly in a state of fear, and that retribution was going to be not just to them, but to other people that they loved, even though some of those same people might have also abused them, right? Like their own family members. Mm-hmm. So it's people that have not experienced any of this kind of betrayal don't have, and someone in the comments that went by before said this is exactly what domestic violence victims go through. This is the same kind of mental abuse, the cycle, the grooming, the gaslighting, and then tearing down of the person's ability to use their own instincts, because she had good instincts, your own instincts to say, I can get out of this. I have to get out of this. I need to get out of this. But then there's nobody there. Everybody needs help. Even people brought up in the most loving homes had the help of their parents to get over those things that happen in childhood that make you doubt yourself. That's just a normal life. Imagine adding onto it all of this, and then you having to decide that you can figure out the right way to get yourself out of this, and nobody gives a shit about you. Nobody. Well, they're waiting for you to come back. He literally waited for her calls. And she said the same thing. She admittedly said that when there were periods that were too long that she hadn't heard from Jeffrey, that she literally started to miss him. That's what grooming does to them. That they will love the person that's abusing them.
And it wasn't so much about like missing. It was, I think, with therapy, she did realize it was more about, he was the only person that gave her kind of like a purpose or validation for what she was doing. Right. Even though it was terrible, she knew she was doing a good job because of this or that or whatever, right? But the one thing that like how she escaped was very clever, and it's very, the way she leveraged it, and this is after years of dealing with him, is Ghislaine and Jeffrey wanted to marry her off to a rich person or whatever, so that they could have pure babies, and basically use her as a birthing. Like it's gross. Oh, it's gross. And it really made me think about like how the AI bros have like Sam and all of them, like they have like this thing, like it's like a religion kind of, well, they were all kind of like do with him, with Jeffrey, and the whole like the weird AI tech stuff. Like he was a huge investor in having like meetings with these guys and stuff too. So she said, let me think about it, because how all this started was her dad introduced her to Trump, and that's how she got a job working at the spa. And that is where Ghislaine found her. And the whole time where she thought it was a spa and the massage rooms were just massages, that was her thing. Like, oh, I could do that for my life. Like Mr. Trump is like paying me good and I can get out of this life, you know? And that's where it went through, or that was her kind of like through line. So when Ghislaine and Jeffrey were like, when they found her, it was all in the guise of like, oh, it's a massage, right? And then obviously it became quickly not a massage.
Right.
And then so finally, when they came,
you said you said you were listening to the book, right? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you know, she described her very first meeting with them. They assaulted her in the very first meeting.
Yeah, I know.
In the very first meeting when she.
But it was on the guys, we're going to teach you how to do a massage.
Right, to Jeffrey. Ghislaine and he assaulted her the very first day they introduced her to the idea of being a private masseuse. Literally.
Yep.
Wow.
And that was the weird thing, is like, so she really thought she could be good at it. You know what I mean? I think it was like the one thing that kind of kept her going. And so how she bargains, she said, I'll think about your offer to marry me off to have this baby of yours, but you need to pay for actual massage therapy or massage school. And so they sent her to, I think, Thailand. And that's where she met her husband. And they basically ran away.
Yeah, she escaped.
Who was she supposed to have this baby with the beforehand?
It was supposed to be Jeffrey was trying to marry her off to like some billionaire guy. I don't know. They didn't say the name.
Okay.
But yeah. And so they bankrolled the whole Thailand thing. And so she finally had distance for the first time.
Well, the fantastical thing about what you just repeated, which was written in the book, and many other things that have come out way before any of this erupted in the way that it has because of Donald being the president, it's very difficult for a person that lives a fairly normal life. And I say fairly because what is normal anymore, right? There's dysfunction to some degree, probably in everyone's life, but it's manageable, right? You have tools to manage those areas of your life that go, say, off the rails a little bit. Even as a child, either it's good parenting, or it's support in the school system, or it's actual therapy. There's a number of things, but when you're missing all of that kind of support, and you're flying completely blind, there is no capacity, and you referred to it earlier, the frontal lobe of a child's brain development, where reason and thought is developed, doesn't work until they're in full development, which is adulthood. These numbers that we say, this is a child, this is an adult, this is puberty, this is advanced adulthood, this is young adulthood. These aren't just random terms that psychologists and scientists have come up with. They've been mapping the brain for so long, and they understand development for so long, that they know the capacity of every human being from birth, and not all the capacity, but a good deal of developmental capacity from birth until you reach some level of the mid-20s of your life, of where learning and development is still going on. And then at some point, your personality is pretty much solidified by the age of 5. So that part doesn't change. But what happens is it matures and develops. And this is what doesn't happen to people that are victimized at a young age. As Heather said, it's literally stunts their growth. The development goes off track and does not continue in the path that it would normally continue in, even with those bumps in the road that you'll experience, like things like, bullying, things like feeling abandoned by your parents, things like maybe not being properly taught in school to the level of your individual challenges, being left behind emotionally, things like that. happen to everyone in their life, but not to the degree that a person that has been victimized will experience, because it doesn't allow the developmental path. It's not a straight line, but the curves are outrageous. And people start accepting things that when you and I hear about them, we say, it's so fantastical to think that anyone could think that that was okay and they would agree to do that. But you're not in the circumstance where they're looking at it with different eyes than you are. They're looking at it with hunger. They're looking at it with needing acceptance and needing some validation so that they can actually move past that emotion and think they're on the other side of being okay. And it never gets to the other side, right? It stops them in their tracks. Again, referring to people in the chat that are talking about developmental patterns and talking about DV in the home, why an adult, mostly women, but it does happen to men, that an adult woman would voluntarily engage themselves in a relationship and then maybe a marriage and also having children with someone that's been abusing them from the beginning. This is the reason why, where you and I would recognize abuse maybe on the third time and be like, wait a minute, that red flag first time, second time, okay, I gave you a second chance, third time, I'm out of here. And that goes with friendships too. I'm not just talking about male-female relationships. I'm talking about there's a lot of domestic violence within friendships as well. People that are friends with people that are toxic to their lives. And physical violence does take place. So when you read this book, if people will take the time to read it or get the audio versions or listen to some of the people on this app who are reading segments out of the book, not out of context, they're just reading them like chapter by chapter. If you're not a student of psychology, if you don't have a background in understanding the way personality is developed, I really implore people to not comment on things that you do not find believable because it's not your experience. That's what all of this I was getting to. You cannot use yourself, because that's an anomaly, to say, oh, well, it didn't happen to me that way when somebody approached me, when a guy tried to do something to me and I just walked away, or the neighbor did this and I told my family and my family called the police. Yeah, everyone doesn't have that support system. A lot of people won't speak up. Even in the most secure homes, there's a lot of children that have been abused that never tell their parents, even though their parents have never given them a reason not to trust them.
I am
There's
one
a
of
lot of
those
shame,
kids.
right, Heather?
Yeah.
A lot of
I'd
shame.
have to say, like, listening to this book, that because I was very young when I was abused. Like, I was anywhere from 4 to 6. And the thing that's crazy is the thing happens, I can remember, like, all the experience, the pain or whatever, right? But I didn't have any story or narrative to put to it. So it wasn't until I was like around 16 that I saw it replay for the first time, but in like a brain that had context. And I've had memories of it my entire life, but I didn't understand it. It was like it would replay from a little kid's brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You didn't understand, you didn't have the words. So I will say that, like, yeah, I'm an adult now. I have, I did have the love. I did have the support. Never told my parents about it. They don't need to know. But when they pass, I'm saying who did it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
anyway, but
Yeah, I'm so sorry, Heather.
even just, yeah, thank you. But despite that, like, and we, especially women, we've all had friends, or unfortunately, who have gone through this stuff too. A lot of our friends are in therapy for it or whatever. But like reading or listening, I guess, to this book, and there's like, I actually got to heal through some of this stuff, because she says things in her book, Virginia, that I'm like, holy crap, I didn't even realize that was still how I thought about some stuff, right? Because there is shame, or I think there's context that automatically also gets left out when you're a victim, is because you don't usually get to like understand or know or ask the person who victimized you why they did it. So you only have the story that you're filling in, or gaps, right?
Right.
So,
Well, you're not getting closure.
yeah, and or just yeah, and I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's just this book was helpful. Like I feel like I've gone through some therapy just through that experience because she says things that I didn't even know were the narratives that I already had. You know what I mean? Because they've been a part of me since I was like 5, right?
Right. And so you can't separate that from who you are. You can't separate who you are from the experience that you had, because you're not your experiences. You are a separate person from that. But you can't do that because you were never given the tools to understand those are two different things. And that's where a lot of shame and self-blame comes in place with people that have been victimized, is they don't separate the act of another person from who they are as the victim. You didn't ask for it. You didn't contribute to it. You didn't do anything to cause it, but you don't have the context as a child, especially, to separate their behavior and know that it's not you, it's them. It's literally a cliche, right? It's not me, it's you, right? That's the literal definition that is missing. And when you read something that you recognize in her book or anyone's literature, whether it be theory or it be a personal experience, it almost opens a gate for your memories to flood through, and then for you to now reconcile those and say, look, here's somebody that had the same experience I did, and it's not just in my mind. It's not just my bad experience. It's not just me. It has happened to other people. It allows you to start to let go of some of that self, I'm going to use this word loosely, when people say self-hate, right? Or blame or shame or whatever degree of that pain that you are still feeling, or not being able to reconcile it at all until something comes across like this and you say, wait a minute, I understand what this person is writing about and what they're speaking about. It may not be in the exact same situation, but it has the same elements.
Yeah. But anyways, I just wanted to come up and say that about the pictures, because these people all knew, just like 75 said. These people have known. They've known this forever and ever, even if it was just rumors. The fact, and once he was caught the first time, they knew it was no longer rumors, and yet they still went to his parties. Katie Couric went to his dinner parties after he was released. All these people, and it's just disgusting. And maybe our humans in general are just stuck in this disgusting. I don't know. It's just gross. It's so horrible that this is still okay in culture, and we see it repeated over and over. And now there's a bunch of Republican states and senators and stuff, and they're trying to put a bill up to change age of consent. And so basically, once you mess with that, then they can start marrying off kids. You know what I mean? And it's like we just can't get away. It's like the crime of men, like of humanity. It's just awful.
It's gross.
And they all know it, and it's all supported in culture because it's supported because it's not being fought against. Not really. When they know all this stuff. And people at the DOJ, they went after these victims like Virginia and discredited her the first time through. She tried going after him several times. There wasn't like a one-trick pony. You know what I mean? But the DOJ tricked her and other victims. So it's bad. Anyway.
Yeah, it's so gross that Trump ran on this. This is the whole 2024 was all about ending this stuff, and then I feel like in an awful way, because he's in there. I feel like there's gonna be less closure, no accountability, and now you have kind of, I don't know. It's just wild that the election was about this, but so much about this, and it was in a way that he was correct that there was some ring that was happening, but it's just that he was in the center of it, and now he's going to cover up the whole thing now because he's president. So it's just wild, and it's all it's just sick.
Well, here's a comment, and I've got to address this comment by Firefly, whoever this person thinks they're defending. Just because they're not on the list doesn't mean they're guilty. That's exactly the opposite of what that means. If you're on the list and you've been in these properties and you've been at more than one event, I can give you a pass if you were there once and you didn't know what you were going to see when you got there, and then you got there and you witnessed all of the activity and all of the evidence that was clearly brazenly posted everywhere and not hidden, not in a secret room, not where they took people to say, "Ooh, let me show you something."
Mm-hmm.
And you went back, you're fucking guilty. I'm sorry.
Yeah, these young girls, they were in the backgrounds. They were in the background of these photos taken there. They were there.
And they didn't even try to hide them. They took a picture together and they're like, "Oh yeah, there's a girl laying on the couch behind me who's in bondage, but I'm going to take the picture standing right here with no regard whatsoever for understanding what's in the background," because they didn't care. They didn't care to hide it. They didn't care to cover it up. They didn't care that it was wrong, because in their minds, obviously, they didn't think it was wrong. They didn't care, period, in any realm that you could think of. And for any person in this chat or anywhere else that has heard about these things, and not just this particular example being Jeffrey Epstein's example, anything you've ever read about where they have broken these kinds of rings, and you can make a comment like that, there is something mentally not right about you. Because when you go to these environments and the evidence is there for the taking, and you choose to not absorb it and acknowledge it, and then in your moral compass, you go home and go, "Oh, that was okay. I'll go back if I'm invited again," you're guilty. You don't have to get involved in the actual acts, but you are allowing it to continue by your silence. Yes. And that's what Vanity Fair tried to bring out, and they squelched that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and also, again, these girls all looked like they were 15, 16.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They all were there because they look like children, period. That was the whole point. So it wasn't just like, "Oh, well, they were probably like, oh, it's just a woman, right? It's just some hot model or whatever." No, they were there because they look like children, underdeveloped, if you know what I mean, children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And you can go listen to the interview, and everyone listened to Howard Stern back in the day, and he interviewed Donald Trump more than once. And in that interview that has been replayed over and over, and I don't care how many people out there want to say, "Oh, it's AI, it's been," no, it's not. That interview has been out there for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And Donald Trump had no issues whatsoever, just laughingly making those comments about Epstein, about his activity with women, about all of that, so nonchalantly and cavalierly. And listen, I don't give any kudos to Howard Stern now for standing up and saying, that he thinks this is a vile situation. Yeah, Howard, where were you 30 fucking years ago when you knew what was going on in society and in New York City? Huh, Howard? You don't get a pass. You don't get a pass either.
Yeah.
Just because you didn't engage in it, you knew about it. And he had a powerful platform back in those days.
Until we actually hold people responsible for being in the room, I don't care if you touched them. I care if you even looked at them or you were there supporting the person who supplied them. You are guilty. You're guilty, complicit. You're covering up a crime.
Exactly.
There's no other explanation.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, it's hard to fathom. Like for me, for example, the blackmail that they had on Trump in regards to just like the Russian stuff and all the stuff that they, obviously this was like in the dossier and all that kind of stuff that was happening in 2015. This is like all part of that, and they obviously knew. They were talking, like Epstein was asking if they have this stuff on Trump in the emails. They were talking about that. So like it's wild to me that like the political world has like known about this stuff. The leaders of countries know about this stuff because they know about blackmail on one another. So it's just it is really wild how big it is and how deep it goes. I don't even know how you would go through and hold people. I mean, what's actually infuriating is just how little people actually have been, how little or how few people have been charged with anything. I mean, other than Epstein and Ghislaine, has there been anyone that's been held like accountable or like?
Well, the part that hasn't been connected yet, and wait, this will come out, I guarantee it. And I don't have any proof of it, but just think about the process here. Hollywood and the elite and society and page 6, that's two coasts. You understand that we've got the whole thing in Hollywood that's going on. And that, because you see what 50 Cent is doing, he's on a rampage. He's going to be exposing a lot out on that coast. Those people also do business and live and have homes in New York City on the East Coast, many of them in Manhattan directly, and also in the outer areas like parts of Connecticut and other wealthy communities in New Jersey as well. Weinstein, go back to the Weinstein case. People, same thing. Except they called that the casting couch, right? Because they were like, oh, well, we finally got the guy who was doing it in the Hollywood realm. Well, you don't think that those people cross over to this coast over here? You don't think those people know each other the same way? You don't think that there's a connection that is just not being made right now because he's not part of the fray? We're talking about what's happened in this realm on this side of the world. I keep saying this because I'm on the East Coast, okay? And that is
sorry. I'm just gonna say I gotta head out. Thanks everyone. If you're watching on my stream, go watch on Corey Campbell's stream on Twitch. It's Corey Campbell, right? Correct.
84. But yes, Corey Campbell.
It's Corey Campbell 84. Or head over to the Dr. Greg show, Dr. Greg show, right?
Yep. Thanks, Prime. Appreciate you, man.
On TikTok. Yeah. All right. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
There will be other links. Right now, this is what's in the headlines because we have the literal leader of what used to be the fucking free world deeply embedded in this situation. And this situation is going to be the way that some of this information will break out later. You'll see. And somebody in the comments said something to the degree, I think what they meant was kudos to Vanity Fair. Vanity Fair has had some of the best exposés throughout their publication's history and some deep dives on many issues. So it didn't surprise me that they had delved as deeply as they had. What surprised me was that the people that were in the right places at that time had the power to stop them and make them retract it. And it never got printed. It never got into that issue. And if you go back and look at the history of the story surrounding that situation, you can read how Vanity Fair reacted at that time. They had basically no other choice but to not print that story. So there is still good journalism going on out there. And ironically enough, a magazine like Vanity Fair, which most people on the surface think of as a fashion magazine, and typically that's what it is, has this kind of depth. And I hope that there's a renewed interest in people supporting, because publications like that, are going out of business every day. Circulation is being affected every day, and the internet is taking over where you can't control the dialogue and what's being put out there when people are relying on what you read only on the internet. When it gets on the printed page, it's a severely different set of truths when something makes it to print. People, please keep that in mind.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
Another thing, like Epstein, it seems like I don't know for how long he was doing this, or as far as like editing the book or whatever, and when it was making it in the chapters or whatever. But it seems like after Virginia escaped, he was getting like she was supposed to train somebody who didn't speak English. So they were getting girls from around the world, like Russia and I think Thailand. Like, so this is like a world crime, not to mention he had his own little island, right? So
internationally, they were recruiting
yeah.
women from around the world. Yes, especially
Yeah.
poor countries and island countries.
Yeah. So like, what would it take to hold people accountable? You know, I think I do wonder at how many people and victims want to tell their stories, but they've been advised to not tell too many stories or the details per se, because it could affect any sort of compensation. Because, you know, depending on where these crimes and the statutes of limitations and all that, the laws during their time of abuse, it makes it to where they can't do criminal court, but they could only do like
Civil,
oh my God.
like E. Jean Carroll.
Civil.
E. Jean Carroll did. She got
Yeah.
that extension, and they were able to do it civilly and not criminally.
And that's what Virginia was able to do as well.
Yeah.
Because, and people, like, they were about to go to court for the civil because it could no longer be criminal court.
Right.
And people just are like, oh, well, they took the money. It's like, yeah, because that was the only compensation that was ever going to happen. And you know what? That's okay, because the whole point is when children are victimized like this, and specifically what happened to Virginia and those like with the victims of Epstein, is it meant that she would, you know, they didn't finish school. So they were not going to have schooling. They were not going to ever have like job employment, and it was going to hurt them for the rest of their lives.
Right.
They were never going to recover emotionally, financially.
Right.
Like it robbed them. And so people love to be like, oh, well, they just said that for the payout. It's like, oh my God, they still have to have a lot of evidence. These were not easily won at all. And you know what? They were about to go to court, and then Epstein settled with them.
Right.
And so
did Trump, by the way.
So did Trump.
As well.
Yep.
And he settled with children's families, and the families chose to take the money over the abuse that they were going to be threatened with, which they've absolutely have confirmed was true. The idea that you're even looking at when someone makes a comment, an ignorant comment, like, well, they took the money. When you look at, let's just say they acquired this person trust at age 13 and they used them until they were 20. Okay. Those years of their life, they used that person up, basically. They took everything from them, not just the physical abuse, but all the things we've been talking about mentally. And now you let this person, you just release them all like they were wild animals, right? We're going to let you go back out in the wild. How do they function and recoup any of their own abilities to discern right from wrong, let alone what their capabilities or talents might have actually been had they been properly developed during their years instead of being exploited, and go on to be a normal person? That's what they're fighting for in these civil cases. They're not fighting for the actual, as you're saying, the remuneration that they get is only to be put in place of what they can't do for themselves, and the therapy they should actually be seeking as well.
I was just going to say, it's to pay for housing, for healthcare, because their bodies had been so damaged and brutalized. They had long-lasting effects and damage to these bodies. You know what I mean? So it's to pay for health insurance, or like just basic needs that they've never had, most likely ever had in their entire life.
That's another great point you brought up. People don't even see, because we're not trying to diminish what you reported about yourself. I don't want to speak to your experience. You jump in on that. But for people who haven't experienced that or studied it, you can't imagine that it's not just about those 7 years that person's life was under the control of these people, and they were asked to do or forced to do, or in some cases derugged to do these acts, that it wasn't in a vacuum. It was consistent. It was over and over. In your normal existence as a person that might be actually active, you wouldn't be engaging in this degree of physical contact. And that damages those women, those children, those boys, damages them just from the repetitiveness. Even if they were doing the absolute most normal acts, the repetitive the repetitiveness is a factor nobody's taking into account. Then add to that all of the abusive things they did, and then all the extenuating circumstances surrounding that, meaning the stress that the body is feeling and the emotional shutting down that these children and young women, young adults were doing to just survive the acts, and losing memory of how many times things was even done to them or who did it. And you're not talking about just walking away after 7 years and just being like a normal person that just broke up from a long-term relationship. Yeah. That's not what's happening here. And people that don't understand what that trafficking does to a person's entire holistic existence is what is not being accounted for when comments that are made about getting money to help a person go on with the rest of their life. The only other way out of this would have been to end their life. And that's the only way you would make all of that go away. So this is compensation for the damage that they incurred, not that they're getting the bag and they're going to go off and live this fantastic life. Because a lot of them, by the way, as we know, also wind up doing the deed themselves eventually as well. And they no longer are going to benefit from whatever compensation they got. Just to tell you that money doesn't mean anything. It's only the vehicle to get them to a safer place in their life. And some of them never make it on that journey. And they have the money. So people, get your heads out of your asses.
Yep. Yeah. Somebody said in the comments, and I'm not like trying to attack you or anything, but you said that Virginia got the closest to some degree of healing more than anyone else, you think? I mean, maybe I don't know why you could say that if you looked at the book and listened. I mean, ultimately her husband was beating her too. Like, she barely escaped. She never healed. It might look like it because it's like, oh, she's a fighter. Well, we shouldn't have to praise somebody for being a fighter. You know what I mean? Like, she just wanted to be a person who was loved by her parents. But she had to fight to do this because, like she said in her book, when she had her daughter, it made her like, before she just wanted to close that chapter of her life and pretend, and move on. But when she had her daughter, she realized, no, I want to fight and I want to protect others.
Right.
And so, she spent years of her life. She really wanted to foster and adopt this little girl, but she had to either do that or spend all these years going to court, and she decided that she was going to do this instead.
Yeah, she made a hard choice.
She sacrificed everything.
Yeah, she supplanted her own need to be a nurturing, loving mother to a child to fight a fight that she knew was only going to end badly for her, whether she survived or didn't do what she did. And that's, again, up for another debate of conversation, but we're not going to go there. That she made the harder choice to not do what she thought would heal herself and her spirit and her heart and be a comfort to another human being, but to fight for many more than just one person's survival, right? So this is the things that every person who's making judgments, and by the way, you don't get the right to make a judgment if you don't at least read the damn book. Okay, don't just look at the files. Don't just look at the pictures. Don't just listen to commentary on a live. Don't just listen to sporadic things here and there. Read the book, at least that one book, and then educate yourself further if you really think that you feel strongly about your opinion on this. But for the most part, no one can speak to the experiences of an abused person. I don't care if it's verbal, if it's financial, if it's physical, or if it's sexual, it doesn't matter. Abuse is abuse. And by the way, neglect is abuse also. So every person, again, going back to the people that knew what was happening and did nothing, that is also abuse.
Yeah, I do want...
You did not step in and even make a single accusation that could have been investigated. That's all you had to do. You could have done it anonymously even. These famous people have lots of ways that they can hide things. You don't know how to hide the fact that you think someone that in your circle is doing something so horrific and horrendous that you can't find a way to alert the authorities that you think would do something about this. There's no excuses.
Yeah, I think, every human has been hurt, right? And it doesn't mean that we're just like, oh, even if we have a great job and a great house and a great car, it doesn't mean we're healed per se, right? Well, somebody who went through the level that she did, there isn't healing. And I would never suspect her of ever saying, oh, I'm healed now, because you don't. But what you can do is you can experience some good memories. You know what I mean? And you can have experience some good and new experiences that aren't abuse or whatever, right? And that's what she did find with her children, and I guess some parts with her husband. But something that it makes me think about, like with Trump, like why did he run on releasing these files? Then, and we all know, we're like, why? You're in there, right? And it's just that kind of cockiness, that behavior. Like, I think just like Epstein, which I think he praised and admired Epstein so much, was he was guilty, he got away with it, and people still came to his parties, and people still, celebrated him and gave him all this love and attention. And because that's really what Trump wants anyway. And I think he wants to prove that he can get away with it too, because he's powerful and king and lovable, or whatever it is,
Well, essentially, he has gotten away with it, right?
Yeah.
Because he was elected again, even under the cloud of all of this. And it's the malignant narcissist in him that is really all his personality that makes him believe that he can rise above any challenge, even when he himself knows that he's guilty of exactly what he's being accused of. But the arrogance is so huge, and the idea that you have been validated, right? Because people keep voting for this MF, that you are basically untouchable. So it only feeds into the ego part of his personality. And then it's that, in his speeches, even before the election was finalized, he mocked his own supporters. That is how arrogant a human being he is. He mocked them to their faces. We saw the video of those quote unquote rallies, and the way that he literally told them, I'm using you, and please keep letting me do it. And they did. And we won't get into the part about whether or not he actually legitimately convinced them to do that, or whether other things took place. Because again, these things are all intertwined, and we're trying to stick to one subject here now, so I'm not going to go there. But let's say on the face of it, we're going to say they put him in office purely on their votes, supported his agenda and his platform, and did exactly what you just said. He went and campaigned on, I'm going to release this, because he never thought the day would come that Congress would go against him. Look at what Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing. For whatever her own evil reasons are, and her own whatever self-aggrandizement she's looking for, to be pat on the back and told, oh, you're such a good woman because you're protecting these women. She's got an ulterior motive too. But he never thought it would come to any of this. And so now his back is in the corner.
And she quit after like a month. She saw this and the whole thing with Trump going after her, and she knows something enough to not battle it, because she battled the left for 6 years and took all their ire. But it was it's crazy. I mean, it's very tough. It's
complicated. There are no straight lines to any person, group, or ideologies that you can connect here to explain this. And this is what people want. This is what the human mind wants. They want resolution, right? They want answers. They want to be able to close the chapter on this such thing and say, okay, we got all the answers we need. Now we can close the book. The book is never closed. There is no straight line to an answer to anything this complex, something that has gone on this many decades, something that is this vile and evil, something that takes immorality to really be involved in. There isn't going to be a simple resolution. And very likely, I don't know how old any of you guys are, but you look fairly young. I'm probably a little older than both of you, but not by much. It's not even going to happen in our lifetime. we're not going to know.
Yeah, it seems. Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah, I don't
I'm not
know
holding out
how.
hope. I never was holding out hope.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's bad all around. It's hard to yeah. I mean, thank you, Heather, for sharing your story. I appreciate it, and thank you, 75, for coming up. And you guys have like way more information. I'm just sitting quietly and learning. I don't really have much to add. I don't have like this. I haven't read a lot about it. So just in passing. So I can't really speak to it. So thank you for jumping up and talking about it, though. I appreciate it.
Well, definitely want to give thanks to Heather for, exposing her own vulnerabilities and using that as a good reference point for people to understand when you speak about something you haven't either studied or experienced, please let the people that know what they're doing and the people that have experienced it, the people that have some connection to at least aspects of it, listen to them. We say that about other communities. Listen, because even though it's unbelievable to you and incomprehensible to you and something that you'd never given a second thought to because it never happened even within your realm, just understand, as good as people can be and as brilliant as our minds are, there's a lot of evil in this world. And it's evil because whenever something is done in private, under the cover of darkness, in silence, in a small group, whether you want to call it cult-like behavior or just evil in general, they know that it's not what they're doing is not good. That should be your first sign. When something is a secret, it's typically not good. I'm not talking about you keeping the secret from your aunt that you're going to get engaged so she don't blab it out at dinner. I'm talking about secrets that go deep into the behavior of human beings. People keep that in mind. If you're hiding it, you are already cognizant of the fact that it is not something good, let alone as horrific as this has been. And Heather, bless you. I hope that your life continues to improve and that you're able to continue to benefit from some of these revelations, as you pointed out, and that it's going to help you going forward.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think, despite it all, I do have a good, framework of people who care about me. I have a great husband, supportive, all that stuff, right? And my heart just breaks for the people who don't have that. They don't even have one person who believes them. You know what I mean? Or one person who doesn't like just roll their eyes and like, okay, not this again, blah, 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 get over it. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's how most people are met. And that is why a lot of people don't even talk about it. I have a newfound anger. And so, and I have recently found my resolve to, I have conditions and then I'm spilling the beans to everybody. Like I'm saying it out loud. Yeah. Because it did dawn on me, like literally 3 weeks ago, listening to this book. I had never thought about it before. The holy crap, they probably abused other people. You know what I mean? And he met his wife when she was 15. He was in his 20s. Yeah. And they're like, oh, but nothing funny happened back then. And it's so weird that like listening to this horrific story opened up like a different framework to think through this stuff. So, but yeah, like my heart goes out to anyone who's ever suffered this, whether you told a soul or not, like it still matters and it's not fair. Nothing you did caused it, but like, yeah, I am definitely still very blessed. You know what I mean? I've been very lucky in life. So, but yeah, anyway, but thank you.
I think you probably, I just take a issue with people when they say I was lucky. You deserved it. It's not about luck. You deserve it. And so do the other people that aren't getting it. You deserve it. And somehow it came to you, but it's not about luck. This is the way we should be treating each other.
Probably my sense of humor, because I'm pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that's a defense mechanism that helps a lot of people get through tragic events in their life.
Yeah, but also, you know what? I just want to clarify that, you know what? If you're a victim, And me saying that I've been lucky enough to find people that validated me, that doesn't mean that, oh, see, Heather got over it. She got over it. See, she's fine now. Like, I would be horrified if anyone ever tried to use those words as like a, a weapon to somebody else.
Against you, right? And then the other side of that too is when victims hear that and they say, "Why aren't I that lucky?" There's that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not their fault. It's because, it's nothing. It was nothing in my power. Just like it's nothing in their power, and it's just awful. It's just awful all around. But anyway, thank you, panel.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for I think like tastefully and respectfully talking about this issue. That was really, thank you. I mean, that was I learned a lot, so thank you.
Well, thank you guys, and keep doing what you're doing, because even when things are a little misunderstood, it's better that it's getting out there than it's not being spoken about at all.
Yeah,
I agree. I totally agree.
Good night.
All right, thank you. Good night. Bye. Ashford, how's it going, man? Yes, you like joining in the middle of that. Do you have anything you wanted to add or questions, or you had a mic open, so I muted you when you joined.
I hear something.
No, I muted him.
Oh, I don't know what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Ashford. How do you know real live? I don't know. Murphy, yeah, I have a PhD in microbiology. I'm a scientist. That's what my background is. That's what I do. But Corey's a scientist too. So we're double stacked on scientists now. So we have answer questions if you have any. What's medical exemptions? Oh, they shouldn't be. You shouldn't have medical exemptions for vaccines. I mean, that's just, there is none. There is no credible reason to risk public health. Yeah. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Okay, I have a genetic condition where I can't get 2 vaccines. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's because you can't live attenuated and stuff. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's like a genetic, healthcare decision. That's obviously, I mean, you're not going to get one that puts your health at risk. That's the idea. Try to help other. Hi, Cass. How's it going?
The vaxes though.
Oh, dang. Oh, awesome. Yes. There you go.
So, and I found out after I got the vaxes, and it's kind of what led to me getting my karyotyping done, because I actually have what is known as the factor V Leiden homozygous one.
Oh, okay.
That actually ended up developing into thrombosis for me. And so when I got my C19 vax, I ended up in the hospital days after with a PE. And then afterwards, they also warned me of the mRNA vax, I believe it was, that those were the 2 vaxes that I should stay away from and not get further vaxes for, based off of my condition, because of the fact of how severe my genetic mutation was. For reference, I'm pregnant now and I have to be on anticoagulants. I'm on Lovenox to be able to sustain the pregnancy, so that way I don't throw another PE or another severe deep vein blood clot that would end the pregnancy.
Huh. That's interesting that it was interesting. Huh.
To be fair, I did get the Johnson & Johnson one, the one before it, literally 2 days before it got taken off the shelf for causing PEs.
Because that one for sure, I would think because that was shown to have some type of weird thing, but that was a different technology entirely. I mean, that's a DNA technology, and the other ones that we use now are all mRNA. And you'd think that actually, if you're worried about like any type of blood clots or something, you would actually want to get the vaccine. That would be my intuition, but I mean,
That was
physicians
my
know the
thought
best.
too.
Yeah,
That was my thought too, until they did like further testing or whatever and realized that it was like I believe it was like my chromosome 1 that had the mutation on it, or I can't recall off the top of my head. I ended up getting like massive amounts of karyotyping and testing done. And then they told me that to not do any more like supplemental C19 vaxes, and to stay away from the mRNA of the Pfizer and the I can't remember the M1, the Moderna. Yeah, that one.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, listen to your doctors. But yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't looked too deeply. At least, I'm not sure that clotting is a huge factor. Like, I'm not sure that the mRNA vaccines are associated with affecting clotting all that much. But obviously, follow your doctor's orders.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just like a curiosity of mine, because I know that like when it came to the J&J, that was a very unique situation where
that makes sense
like it was
to me.
proven. Right. Where it was proven. I mean, I literally got it 2 days before it was pulled from the shelves for causing PEs. And then a week later, I was in the hospital with a PE.
Wow.
And then after my last pregnancy, I actually had gotten one of the boosters previous to it. And then they like did further testing after the loss of the pregnancy. And then that's when they found out that I had the genetic mutation that was like causing like severe like thrombosis, to where I was like throwing clots even when I didn't know it. So like when I was like, they were able to correlate my like history of miscarriages due to the fact of my factor V Leiden mutation causing like clots early on in the stage of pregnancy that would cause it to basically like unalive itself before it even got a heartbeat. And so my doctor told me to stay away from obviously the J&J vaccine, which I don't think it's the same vaccine that was out when I got it. And then they told me to stay away from the Pfizer and the Moderna one.
That's what they said. That's what they said. But I'm very sorry to hear that you miscarried, but I'm glad you at least now have some answers and solutions.
Right. I mean, unfortunately, like it is what it is. I've come to terms with it now. It was just something that I was curious about, because I know like for other vaccines, I would still obviously vaccinate myself and my children and whatnot. But I know like the C19 one has been a very big like contested one when it comes to like medical exemptions. And so I was just curious on like your like thoughts on it. Like obviously I've already been vaccinated and had a booster. So it's like I've still done it and I've reaped the consequences of those things. But like in situations where individuals know this before the fact, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, do you risk the possibility of having a PE that is treatable, or do you say risk the societal impact of it, which is kind of where like my dilemma was.
I mean, the side effects of COVID, are so much greater than the potentials for the side effects on the vaccine, that I think that I would always go with the COVID like vaccine. Just I think it would just always make sense. I mean, we were actually tasked with this myself when we were my wife and I were pregnant, and the vaccine had just came out, and it was just like we were in the middle of a pandemic, and we were like completely shut down and stuff. So the fact that we at least got vaccinated, and she got it while pregnant and stuff too, I was so afraid of what was happening that we chose to vaccinate, and there was a bunch of data to say that it was safe for pregnant people. So we went with that. We went with that too.
Right, and that's kind of where I was like, when I got my first initial vaccine, like I obviously heard all the propaganda calling it the clot shot, all of that. And it was like, at that point I had no knowledge of my genetic mutation. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And then for the longest time, we had no idea what caused my pulmonary embolism. They just associated it to the vaccine. And then later, when I got my karyotype and they realized that I had the factor V Leiden that caused DVT, which is deep vein thrombosis, which causes like the deep vein clots that can go into PEs, that's when they kind of were like, okay, now stay away from like the booster shots if they're Pfizer and Moderna, stay away from like the Johnson and Johnson ones and all of this. And it was just kind of one of those things where it's like, for me myself, like I obviously was like, I went through a PE. I can kind of handle another one if it happens. But it was kind of one of those situations, like for the general consensus, it was like, well, in situations like this, do we say that this individual should risk because not all pulmonary embolisms get caught before they cause, life-threatening situations. And that was my biggest thing, was like, okay, if I do decide to go get another booster and I do get a PE and then like I pass in the middle of the night because I didn't know I had a PE, is that worth the risk? Or do I say, okay, let's go ahead and go through with it and then just get continual testing? It was just kind of one of those like medical like dilemmas that I was in, and that like even with this pregnancy, because obviously when you're pregnant, they make you go through a crap ton of vaccines while you're pregnant, that it was kind of like, well, what do I really do in this situation?
Yeah, that's interesting. So, I definitely don't have a severe clotting issue to the extent that you do, but I do have a condition that increases my risk of clotting. So I have Crohn's disease, and Crohn's disease is associated with a not super significant, but a significant increased risk of clotting. But even for Crohn's disease patients, like it's still recommended to get the vaccine. So yeah, I'm curious in terms of, I'll have to look into the data in terms of, because at least based off what I've seen, the safety profile of the mRNA vaccine is pretty good. And I haven't seen anything reported in terms of like clotting. But again, if that's what your doctors say, then go with what your doctors say. But that does seem very curious to me. Or maybe they were just going with the best information that they had available at the time. But yeah, my intuition would be, even for myself, who is at somewhat increased risk of clotting, well, I still get my boosters and vaccines. I'm scheduled to get my COVID booster this Tuesday or Wednesday.
Nice.
Right. And that was kind of my dilemma, because it kind of, for me, they went further than just the like C19 and the booster vaccines, like the mRNA ones. They went as far as like the live vaccine. So I think they brought up like smallpox and another one I can't remember off the top of my head. And it was kind of like, well, in situations like that, it is the dilemma of like, okay, do you risk the potential of a clot, or do you like, and this is me like kind of being a utilitarianist in a way of like, well, the greater good, the risk to others can outweigh like my one individual experience. But it's always kind of like that fear factor to it that they instill in you of like, well, now in the back of my mind, if I get like a live vaccine, do I have to worry about passing in the middle of the night to a PE? And it's just been one of my biggest medical like dilemmas, especially with like being pregnant now. It's like, obviously I have to get a lot of vaccines while I'm pregnant. And it was just kind of like one of those situations where it's like, me being utilitarian, I'm obviously going to go get the vaccines. And I obviously have a great medical team where they're going to monitor and make sure that I'm not throwing clots. And that's why I'm on the Lovenox, to make sure that I can't throw blood clots. But it was definitely one of those, like, do the risks outweigh the benefits kind of situations.
Yeah, that's a tough calculation for sure. And you got to do what you feel is best for you in consultation with your doctors, of course.
Obviously. I was just curious about, like, because I know in most situations, medical exemptions are just going to be BS baloney that somebody goes to their doctor to get, so that way they don't have to do these things for work or travel or whatnot. But I was curious about, like, the ones where it's like a genuine clotting condition where they are at a super high risk. They have thrown PEs in the past, like, what your guys' position on it, like, would you guys, obviously, like, outside of the medical professional like sense of it, in your guys' mindset, would you say that the risks outweigh, or the benefits outweigh the risks, or whatnot?
I mean, I think it's just, that's the reason why healthy people that can withstand the side effects get vaccinated to protect people that are like that can't take it or have cancer immunodeficiency or something like that. I mean, that's the whole idea, is that we can withstand it. And here Busy always says this the craziest stuff, but yeah, the vaccines averted 2.5 million deaths worldwide with the COVID vaccine. So again, it's just there's tons of, and this is from JAMA. So again, it's just nonsense, man. You just always say this is one of those guys that only speaks in facts and logic and decide. I think he's a flat earther too, but it's okay.
Did they ever provide a reference, a credible reference for the claims that they make?
No, of course not. No, of course not.
And that's kind of what like my position was that it's like, even if it comes to the circumstance where like the risk do outweigh the benefits for me, where it's like a guarantee that I have a PE, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, well, as long as the people who are able to get the vaxes, then I'm at less of a risk of getting these serious conditions that could cause me to be in the hospital. Because even with my factor V Leiden, it's kind of a lose-lose, because if I get COVID, and I did get COVID, I have an even greater risk of throwing a clots while having COVID. So it's kind of like, well, do you get the vaccine to prevent you from having COVID or in throwing a PE, or do you get the vaccine and risk throwing a PE from the vax? Mm-hmm. So it was just kind of one of those like lose-lose situations for me. But like in my mindset, it's like, if it ever comes to the point where it's like I'm told, hey, absolutely not, you can't get this based off of like how your blood is doing based off of blood tests and whatnot, it's kind of one of those like, well, I'm glad I do live in a place that kind of does mandate vaxes in a certain degree to where it's like the healthy people should be getting their vaccines to where it lowers my risk of getting these conditions that would make me throw a clot from the condition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's rare to get the adverse side effects from the vaccine than it is the actual condition. I mean, that's just that happens a lot.
Yeah, that's it. I was just curious on your guys' idea. I know most medical exemptions are kind of BS, but I know that there are very few actual medical conditions where it's like absolutely not. Yeah. And so that's kind of where I was just curious at, is like the absolutely nots. What do we kind of rely on? Do we just rely on the healthy people who are also anti-vax to get their vaccines, and then we're at risk because people aren't getting their vaccines? And
that's why you should have a strong personal exemption, right? So that people do have to get them because they should be getting them, and then people that are on that gray line that actually have a medical condition where they can't physically get it, now they are protected,
Yeah.
Yeah, public health is always supersedes the little feelings or a scaredness about shots or whatever, which is what a lot of this is. I feel like it's just unwarranted vaccine hesitancy.
That was my biggest thing during the whole pandemic. It was like, and the individuals that I knew who didn't want to get the vax, they were like, oh, well, I don't like shots. And then it's like they're walking around fully tatted. And as an individual who's tatted, it's like, I would much rather just go get a poke from the doctor than sit through an 8-hour tattoo. Like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
But that was it. I'll stop monologuing, y'all. Sorry.
It's all good.
No problem.
How's it going, Ruby or Minnie? How's it going?
Good evening.
Hi.
I'm in California.
Cool. Me too.
Oh, good. Whereabouts?
San Diego.
Oh, I'm in Sacramento.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So here we are. Back in 2016, I was tested and got colon cancer, stage 3.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, actually, I had a very positive attitude toward it, and I had to wear a pump and everything. And I said to myself, I don't care how difficult this is. I'm always going to be with a smile in my face. I did not allow anybody to come near me to cry over what I was going through. And I think that, positivity helps a lot. So I went through, I can't remember how many sessions of chemo, But once it was over, well, actually, I have how do you call it? The fear of throwing up. So that was a that was a positive thing for me. Even though I was told to take anti nausea pills when I got home on the day of the, when they connected the poison, which is what I call it. But anyway, I never got sick, and I used to go to In and Out after my sessions. It sounds crazy. So I don't know if it was the positive attitude or the emetophobia that helped me. Anyway, once the treatment was over, I had a thrombocytopenia from the chemotherapy. And so, that's low platelets. So when this whole pandemic started, and I saw that, and once the vaccine came on, and the censorship started online, in all the media, the last thing that I was able to see was a couple of people had the vaccine, and they had brain hemorrhage. And I said to myself, I'm not getting this, because I have thrombocytopenia, and if it gets low enough, if it gets down to 30,000, mine is like 68,000. It gets down to 30, 25,000, that's it for me. So I decided not to get it. I had a lot of arguments with my medical doctor, and she was not able to convince me, to outweigh the dangers over the danger of COVID, over the danger of the vaccine. So I said to her, I'm going to take a chance. I did not travel. I love to travel. My nephew lives in Italy. He was getting married. I missed that wedding, but I'm stubborn as a mule. So I decided not to get it. My husband, however, a Jewish man, tried to get me to get the vaccine. He wanted to travel, and he got all three of them. After the second one, he got turbo cancer of the prostate.
There is no such thing as turbo cancer. Turbo cancer is a myth. It doesn't exist.
Well, the whole point is he had been checked like 2 months before. He was perfect, and all of a sudden he had Gleason 5, I think what it was, what Biden has. Anyway, he went into treatment, which was horrible. He then got the third vaccine, and then one day he just fell asleep working and died.
Okay.
And so anyway, the way that he many times got COVID. We never quarantined because I told him that I wanted to get COVID because I wanted, herd immunity. But in spite of the fact that I never quarantined, I never got COVID. I did.
You don't know that. You could have been asymptomatic. You don't know that. You could have been asymptomatic. So
I did get testing because I wanted to prove so that I could travel. Anyway,
but unless you were testing yourself every 3 or 4 days for the duration of the pandemic, you don't know.
Well, I did it while he had the COVID. I tested myself many times. Anyway, okay. The whole point is I prophylaxed with ivermectin. That kept me from getting COVID.
No, that's not correct. Ivermectin does not prevent you from getting COVID. It doesn't. That's wrong.
I got shingles in 2022, and I beat it in 3 days with ivermectin.
No.
My girlfriend got dengue fever during a trip to Fiji Island, and she took ivermectin, and she
Shingles.
had hemorrhagic dengue fever, and she in 3 days she was over. She was able to travel to see her father in Bolivia, who was having his 95th birthday.
So ivermectin is for parasites, so parasitic infections, so like scabies and stuff like that. It's not
Correct.
going to be anything for like a viral infection. So anything with a virus that doesn't have a mechanism in order to do it.
Then I'm a miracle of science.
No, it's just you're anecdotal evidence. It's not actual founded, and they've done studies, and it just doesn't work like what you're saying. So you could also have had green tea those days, and then you got better. So now you're better because of the green tea. It's just not how it works, and that's not how we use science in order to better understand mechanisms, so that we can go forward with new new knowledge.
Because I have girlfriends who got COVID and they took the ivermectin, and it was finished within 2 or 3 days.
It doesn't, but that could have been done without it. So again, like unfortunately you're lied to, and I'm telling you the truth right now, and this is what's happening. So
She's conflating so many things here. This is serious misinformation.
Mhm.
This man's a scientist. Will you please listen to him?
No, I'm not going to listen to him.
Okay,
because
well,
here I
because
am,
you're
I am
spreading
alive.
you're spreading
Listen,
lies and
listen,
misinformation
you
on a
drank the-
public
listen,
platform where there are
I'm
people
not
that are
arguing.
influenced by
Excuse
your
me.
ignorance.
You're
an ignorant
insulting,
person.
You're insulting
You
me.
are.
do
I
not
am
insult
insulting you
anybody.
intentionally.
You drank the Kool-Aid. I
Yeah,
did
right,
not.
lady.
And you have the
You are definitely a person
have
that
the,
needs some
and you have
therapy.
the
Go get
clots,
some therapy.
to show for it. No, I don't need therapy.
Yeah,
I
you
think
certainly
need
do.
Therapy
There isn't
because
any
you're
single
not-
thing that you
Listen,
said
I'm
that
not
you
going to talk to
substantiated
anybody
with any
who
scientific
insults
background
me.
whatsoever.
I
More
think
you
yelling,
spoke
I
about
think-
are personal
honest to God, I think
insulting me.
yelling at each other back and forth
Yes, well,
is
I was
really
not yelling
not
at
gonna.
anybody.
Well, you
No,
did.
no, no.
I
I
stepped
think
in
that
to talk
two
to you, and then you
individuals
spoke over
raising
me.
their
Keep
voice
drinking
at
the
each other
Kool-Aid.
Okay,
is
Okay.
not going
need to take her off this
resolve
platform.
anything.
it's
And I think sometimes
Oh, excuse
individuals.
me. I thought I lived in a democracy where I could give my opinion.
You
Yes,
You're
can,
not
you
giving your
have-
opinion now. Now you're spreading
You're
bad
shutting me up.
information.
That's when I'd hit the mute.
You know,
I'd go
you should
mute,
go and live in
and then I'd go
Cuba,
mute, and
okay?
I'd go, oh, hey, you.
I let
and you're
people
talking over everybody as well, right,
Yeah.
Ruby?
I let people kind of like just show themselves. Okay,
She
well,
let
they left.
herself go.
There you go. Yeah, she left herself out.
Because these are trolls and people that come on these lives to incite arguments, to spread misinformation, and the longer they're allowed to stay up speaking this garbage, the more people that are innocently naive are being taken in by some of that information. That was my only point. I stayed silent for a lot of what she was saying until she started to get absolutely ludicrous with the things that she was conflating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of people. Hey, Helen, welcome in. And unfortunately, a lot of people do think that ivermectin still is around. It's honestly wild to me. I see it a lot actually. The people will come in here and they'll say, talking about how amazing it is, and then you can look on, their page. And they're selling boxes themselves. They have a referral link, and they're making money off of it. And you're like,
it's all a grift.
it's wild to me. Yeah, I mean, there are 3 different antiviral drugs that have been approved by the FDA that aren't vaccines, right? So this whole idea that like the FDA is only approving vaccines and vaccine only isn't true. Other things, other treatments have been proven, and even Merck itself, which is a company that makes ivermectin, they're the ones that would have the most to gain. They would make so much money from it. And what do they say? They say, do not take it for COVID. It is not approved. It is not okay. This is not okay to do it. So it's very frustrating.
Right. And in the beginning, when the vaccines were being done on a lottery system, if you remember, right? When they only had They were giving it out to healthcare workers and physicians and the first responders. And people were clamoring to get in line. I know in my state they were to get their lottery number to get in line. As soon as they made the vaccine available to everybody, that's when this all started. And the idea that all of those doctors, first responders, and healthcare officials, as well as healthcare providers, are still walking and around, walking and talking and living on this earth is a testament to the fact that the vaccine did not kill people. And this is what people really don't use their logical thinking skills and use any kind of critical thinking skills. Those people would all be dead by now. The vaccine is not what caused deaths. COVID caused the deaths.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
untreated COVID will continue to cause deaths as it is doing presently. And we are in an upsurge right now on the East Coast, at least that's the area I'm aware of and I stay abreast of.
Yeah.
There are many scientists on here like yourself and other people that have been fighting this misinformation since COVID began.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the vaccine is you can look globally. Basically, the more access that you have to a vaccine, the more likely the mortality rates plummet of COVID. So you just have more access to the vaccine. You have people are less likely to die. I mean, it really is that simple. And you can look at epidemiology and the access to it, and we're talking about like 2.5 million lives that were saved globally because of it. So it's wild. And on top of that, what the most frustrating part is that we're living in a time where it's not just the COVID, right? It's all these other diseases now because of this vaccine hesitant nonsense, measles, pertussis, all these things that are coming back, because of people that and it's a lie. The whole I'm not anti-vaccine. I'm just not for this vaccine kind of nonsense. And people buy into it. And guess where we're at now? Where all this stuff is coming back. We have thousands of cases of measles now in the United States. We have a huge outbreak in South Carolina. We have Canada that's has their own thing, and it's embarrassing. We have all the information.
Well, on that happy note, I have to go to bed, unfortunately.
Okay,
It's
thanks.
almost 3:30 a.m. here.
All right, thanks, Corey. Thanks for coming up. But Corey is also a scientist. You guys, please follow Corey. He's actually in the side. It's Corey Campbell right over here. He's in the side over there. So please follow Corey.
Thank you so much, and also thank you to the individuals that shared their knowledge and experience. Well, their experiences and their knowledge about Epstein. I know way more about Epstein than I feel like I probably should, and I feel like I have to take a shower now because.
Yeah, exactly.
But it takes a lot of courage to share your experiences, and also to probably. It sounds like it takes courage just to read that book and to learn about all those horrific experiences. But
yeah, because when you hear those things and you read that, it's hard to unknow it.
Yes.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying that I regret knowing these things now, but it is definitely a harrowing experience learning about these things and how people can do these horrific things to other people. But yeah, as always, this was a pleasure. And enjoy the rest of your evening, Greg.
All right, thanks, man. Yeah, see you next week.
Take care.
Peace.
Be well. Okay. Yeah, that was definitely interesting. Learned. I've never done a deep dive on Epstein. I don't know that I ever will. And I definitely learned a lot about Epstein tonight. That was quite the experience. And definitely was not planning on how a 2-hour conversation about Epstein. Not that I think it's a bad thing, but it's definitely not what I had in mind. But yeah, as always, this was great. Should be back next week. And thank you, Orange Hugh, for passing by. Always a pleasure to see you. And for No Cal Mike and everyone else for passing by. Always a pleasure. But yeah, should be back next Friday. Probably, talking hopefully less about Epstein. Not that I think it's a bad thing, but I think I would prefer to slightly focus on more of the the vaccine stuff and the whole MAHA movement, since, well, that is the title of my stream. But yeah, as always, take care, be well,